Welcome back to coverage of PCA Sim Racing from Road America. It's time for the Sportsman Class feature, the second race of 4 tonight in this Series 4 finale for PCA Sim Racing. Joseph Stiffel is your pole sitter with a time of 2 minutes and 1.677 seconds over Michael Wassel and Jeff C. Igor Soiker and Colin Thomas round out the top 5. 6th will be Sean Bonet. Drew Kinney starts from 7th. 8th will be Cliff Kayer, and Brian Swift begins the night from 9th. 10th will be Patrick Gill. Christian Rava begins from 11th. 12th will be Chris Duppy. James Sue starts from 13th. 14th will be Trent Young. Aaron Nash begins from 15th. 16th will be Shahar Katz. Mike Neiden starts 17th. 18th will be Bruce Robinson. Ed Nelson starts from 19th. It's Trey Drawhorn in 20th. 21st will be Sam Yao. Thomas Lee starts in 22nd, and Paul Sulk starts in 23rd. 24th belongs to Brandon Jadot. Rodney Campbell is 25th. 26th is Owen Pruden. Donald Binkley is in 27th. 28th will be Cameron Leslie. Antonio da Silva starts in 29th. Brian Granger begins this evening from 30th. 31st will be Scott Ferris. James Legault starts in 32nd. 33rd will be Scott Nell, and Russell Van Zyl starts in 34th. 35th will be Randall Ayers. James Bernard starts 36th. 37th is Jonathan Patterson. Nick Sanney starts 38th. 39th will be Henry Rogers, and Stephen Lukowski starts from 40th. 41st will be Jody Podpra. James Gallo starts 42nd. 43rd is Alex Hellier. Augustine Ray starts 44th. And then the final 3 cars, Julian Velez, Ian Simon, and Keith Powell. 47 cars here tonight to take to Road America in the Sportsman Class finale, and they are led to the grid by Joe Stiffel. And for those curious, it is all about the battle between Igor Soiker and Christian Rava. Those two are the ones you want to watch this evening as we try and determine a champion. As Stiffel leads him into one, and there's contact. I think that might have been Sean Bonet, and Igor Soiker just managed to sneak out of all that, as did Christian Rava. So big moment there for Rava, who needs a good finish to try and catch up to Soiker. It is coming into tonight a 48-point gap between Soiker and Rava. So if you're doing quick math on that, it's going to be about 9th or better that Soiker can finish in order to be guaranteed the title by my quick math, as we will shuffle around and see how this plays out over the course of the evening. But it is Soiker who has the cards and all the control in this and currently runs in P4. So if that's the case, it won't matter what Christian Rava or Sean Bonet do, because Soiker will be in good shape. Soiker anywhere in those top 9 spots should be good to go, right?
Hate to hear that we're having the technical difficulties there with Ray's microphone, but glad we can bring you coverage tonight. And we're working on that issue for you guys.
As they continue to work around Road America for the first lap in this Sportsman finale, Joseph Stiffel is in second by about half a second as Jeff C decides to launch it in Canada corner and goes off track and hits the fence. So Stiffel, now your leader. Watzel up to second, and Igor Soiker will love that. That puts him up into the 3rd spot, although he's fighting off a hard-charging Cliff Kayer as they finish off their first lap.
You hate to see that.
Automatically off the back. Can you hear me,
there's
guys?
Ray.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. But having some technical difficulties on my end. But I was watching that number 3 of Jeff C. Of course, he put it in the fence immediately after he took the lead. And right back in the pits he is. He'll take it out of the top 10 spot as we watch back out front right now for the 003 car of Joseph Streifel down into turn 1. Incredible lead right now over that number 353 of Michael Wassel.
Good shot for Stiffel. No surprise. He's had plenty of speed in a lot of these races. Maybe not necessarily the consistency, but the speed has been there, and that's been the important thing for Stiffel. He may be well-suited to make something happen here. Of course, Stiffel, one of the members out of the Chicago region of the PCA, along with the fan favorite Trey Drawhorn, who I know is going to have a lot of people watching in chat here and cheering on Trey, maybe more than everybody else. Trey currently in the 33rd position after a wild first lap, but relatively clean machines, so that certainly could be worse for the 395 that'll try and work his way back up to the field. Meanwhile, though, man to watch as far as the points are concerned. How about this? 1 and 2 in points right next to each other now as Cliff Kayer went off in turn 6, but it's Igor Sojka and Christian Rava, 3rd and 5th on the racetrack at the moment. Remember, Sojka finishes 9th or better. He is the champion of the sportsman class.
Right now in the 4th place position, he's able to hold that top 5, but he's got a long way to go. We're only lap 2 into this event of 23 laps, or 45 minutes, of course. Kayer there in the 3rd place spot, holding him off actually pretty decent. No, actually, I'm looking at my timing now. It's a little off. So they're there in the 3rd place spot now. If I'm not mistaken, I am using, it looks like he's in the 3rd place above Kayer, down through into the Canada corner. Sorry, guys. Just trying to catch up on things here.
It's a wild one, Road America, and a tricky one here. You've got so many trees that surround the racetrack that if you're not paying attention, you can get mixed up on where you are very, very quickly. It's very easy to do as they continue to weave their way around this one of the great road courses in America, one of the Midwest's finest road courses. This is absolutely beautiful, beautiful country up here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and a tremendous facility by all accounts as Stiffel continues to lead over Wassel and Sojka, who is being challenged every single quarter and step of the way by Cliff Kayer. I don't think Sojka is going to push the issue. Kayer gets down to the inside and on the grass a little bit, and they go side by side through one and somehow manage to hang on to their cars, and they'll go 2 by 2 into turn 2, and Kayer's going to slide back behind Sojka, and Sojka held him off from the outside. Impressive stuff for the number 28. Really impressive work from Sojka to maintain that spot and hang on and keep Kayer at bay. Christian Rava, though, right there as well. And if there's anybody who needs to make something happen, Rava is that man who has had speed, hasn't necessarily had the starting position, but Rava's been very, very quick to it, very, very good with it, and very impressive to watch across the board as they continue to weave their way through the back section of this course. 7, 8, and 9 now on the docket for some of these lead cars as they work their way up towards the carousel. Sojka, though, continuing to pace this group from 3rd on back. You've got Cliff Kayer and Krista Rava in the mix. Patrick Gill and James Sue are also there as well. And then it's about 3 seconds back to the 29 machine of Aaron Nash. It is all Stiffel who continues to pace this group, although Wassel beginning to charge with pace. No surprise that Michael Wassel is going to begin to put the pressure on Stiffel for the race lead momentarily. He, in that number 353 machine, has had a lot of speed, especially on the back half of this Sportsman Series. We've really seen him come to life, especially once these fields got split up into 4 separate races. It was big stuff and it was good stuff for Joseph Stiffel and Michael Wassel to begin battle once again. But Wassel in particular has been very impressive as he continues his charge around Road America. He's now within maybe a car length of your race leader, Joseph Stiffel.
Wassel right now down through turn 1, looking on the hunt there for Stiffel. They'll take it down through turn 2 to 3. He'll look to the inside, but not enough to get it low enough to catch him, but it will be enough to make up a car length. Now about 3 back to the leader. They'll go down that long straight, heading towards turn 5.
The long straight with that very teeny but oh so significant key as you head down into the downhill section of this course, this short little valley here where everything sort of bunches up, and Stiffel continues to hound and pressure and just survive ahead of Michael Wassel, who is all over the rear bumper of the 003.
Keep an eye on that 353. He looks in the inside of every corner when he sets up, and it looks like there's a little bit of a difference now. He's still in the tire tracks for our leader, and they'll take it down through turn 7. No, a little bit shorter on the end. He'll knock it down to 2 car lengths now, looking for that lead. Still early in this.
Still early on in all this. It is all Wassel, just with every bit of pressure he can apply to Joseph Stiffel. But Igor Sojka just sort of hanging out at this point. He's had some pressure of his own from Cliff Kayer, but the most important thing for Sojka, both Soiker and Kerr were faster than Christian Rava that last time by and are extending the gap to the 88, which is exactly what Soiker needs to do in order to bring the sportsman class title back to the Chesapeake region, a home region of the PCA national offices, which carries you through where else, of course? Maryland, Baltimore, Annapolis, the Maryland Eastern Shore, all part of the Chesapeake region of the PCA. As Kerr continues to press the issue on Soiker, and Wassel continues to press the issue on Stiffel. Good battle for first, good battle for third, and now here comes Cliff Kerr to the inside of Igor Soiker, who knocks Soiker back down a spot. But I think with the pressure that Kerr had been putting on Soiker, I don't think Igor Soiker is going to mind all that much, because it is big picture racing for the number 28 tonight. This is about the class championship. This is not necessarily about the race win. That being said, a lot of really good battles throughout this field. You've got 1 and 6 and 7, Patrick Gill and James Sue chasing each other and doing a very nice job. Looks like Sue's going to get to the inside. Sue, another one of those Upper Canada region drivers, one of the foremost regions in the PCA. Gill, part of the Central Wisconsin region, naturally. So this is home turf for the number 111.
You get a good look at that.
Take over that spot and make it happen.
You get a good look at that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I'm back here anyways. Kerr was able to make the pass there on Soiker there on the last corner going into turn 5, I believe it was. He'll actually take over the third place spot as they go down through the carousel. Right now, Soiker taking up a little bit of slack behind him, about 3 car lengths back. Still trying to get that top 3 podium spot back before the end of the
Gill continues to circulate this racetrack. Aaron Nash is there too. And then you got to go back a little bit. Sam Yao and Shahar Katz with a pretty good battle. Paul Solk is in the mix. Rodney Campbell there too. That's about a 3 to 4 car train from 12th to about 15th. And then Jonathan Patterson and Nick Shanny both in good shape. Those two racing very tightly for spots. But best battles here, still Stiffel and Wassel. And then Kerr's gap Soiker a little bit, but they continue to extend on Christian Rava, which is the story at the moment.
Rava in that 5th place spot. Again, back up front, watching these guys, Stiefel and Wassel. Wassel is doing the same thing every lap, but not able to gain. He's trying to get down to turn 1, get a little bit of lap traffic ahead of them. Now the traffic car will go high, and it'll give the advantage to Stiefel. Stiefel actually gains up a little bit. And to the inside, Wassel will get around lap traffic as well. Down to turn 3, we'll see if we can put the steam on with Wassel's machine, going down that long stretch into 5.
Stiffel extends it just a little bit coming out of turn 3. Not necessarily too crazy from the 003, and not really too much that we need to worry about on that front. And as this race begins to develop, that we get the opportunity to look at a few more battles here. Trent Young, Drew Kenny in a good battle in 9th and 10th. And then back to that battle with Katz and Solk and Campbell. That trio probably the closest on track out of any battles. And that he also have known Ian Simon and Trey Drawhorn in a battle for 28th and 29th. Or maybe 28th at that point. Simon tries to block Jawhorn going into 1. Trey Jawhorn looking to the inside in turn 3. We'll see if he forces the issue and gets in on the brakes. He dives it in just enough to get to the inside of Simon. They race side by side out of that third corner, and Simon maintains the line and will maintain the spot for the moment. We'll see where he goes in relation to Jawhorn when they get to turn 5. We know all about that braking zone and how that can change battles. Looks like Jawhorn's going to back off and wait to set this up and get a little bit more room to work with. Good pass behind from Brian Swift to work his way around Henry Rogers in the 16. Here comes Jawhorn to the inside at turn 6 as Simon tries to pitch him in. These two are doing an impressive job of staying off of one another. It's almost like they're trying not to run into each other and be very, very particular about it. But as it stands, it's still Ian Simon who's got it. But Brian Swift is there, and he goes to the inside of Trey Jawhorn. And it looks like Brian Swift will take the position, or not maybe. Here comes Jawhorn fighting back on what will be the inside of the carousel.
Back out front, Joseph Stiffel leading this race. But again, Wassel up about 3 car lengths now as they go down through turn 2 underneath the Briggs & Stratton sign. These guys have been putting on a battle for the past 5 to 6 laps. Again, Wassel just trying to get to that tail end, a little bit closer this time. And behind him, actually trailing would be that Cliff Care machine. Actually, as we see that, looks like Sawyer got around him. For the 3rd place spot, they'll come down underneath the Sargentino trailer and take it down the long stretch of turn 5.
As he continues to sort his way through this battle and this madness, it's still just picture perfect even at the front of this. And Sawyer and Care, but here comes James Sue, who's made the charge. He's caught Christian Rava, and now there goes Sue to the outside of the 88 and move James Sue up to P5.
James Sue just fighting his way through this field here right now, heading towards that 4th place spot, which actually is held right now by Kayer. Kayer long distance ahead of him, but again, it looks like Sue's got the speed before the end of this race to catch him. As that's happening, Sawyer pulls out a little bit further away from Kayer. Sawyer right now, probably a good 8-10 car lengths yet. Not enough to make up the 5-second difference, though, between our top 2 guys that have been battling all afternoon.
They continue to sort themselves around and shuffle themselves throughout Road America and work their way around this racetrack. We take a moment, though, as we get set to take a break in the action for a little bit here. We're going to take a moment to bring you another one of those fabled Porsche factory driver interviews. And tonight's is a very, very special guest. We got the chance to talk with Porsche factory driver Matt Campbell, who makes me feel like Grandpa. I got 2 years on him, but Campbell already done a significant amount. He came out of the Porsche Carrera Cup down in Australia and just set blistering paces, lap after lap, circuit after circuit, in support of the Australian supercars, and was noticed by Porsche Brass back in Stuttgart. They brought him into the factory team. Since then, he's gone on to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the Bathurst 12-hour, amongst other endurance races, and now is going to be competing in the 2020 WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Win one of those Porsche Factory 911s in the GTLM class. So you're going to hear a lot about Matt Campbell. We have a 25-year-old with us here on the podium esports coverage of PCA Sim Racing, and we leave it now to Matt Campbell.
And we are now joined on tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing by Porsche factory driver and one of the youngest in the stable, but also maybe one of the fastest, one of the ones with the most potential. Matt Campbell now joins us here on PCA Sim Racing. Matt, good evening and welcome to the broadcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. Evening all.
We know that sim racing's been very, very helpful in a lot of ways, and it was useful before the pandemic even got started. But for you, how does sim racing help you as a driver? What sort of role does it play in your career to just make you a more well-rounded, all-around driver at the end?
Yeah, I think it's really developing and changing quite a lot, especially in the current times. But for sure, when I first got on sim racing, back in around 2012 or so, it was just a good opportunity to get on there, learn some tracks and have a bit of fun with your mates. So it wasn't too serious. Whereas nowadays with sim racing and certainly simulations and the way it's heading, with the Porsche family and the factory, you're really using it to help make the real car go faster. So for sure, we have some fun at home, but we also have some serious toys back in Weissach with Porsche.
Earl was telling us a little bit about those toys, and I think the thing that stuck out to me, at least for him, was that when you all test in Weissach, it's more about learning about the car and running simulations and tests on the car than it might be about learning the tracks. Is it sort of the same way so far as you're concerned? Is it more about car testing the way you see it when you test with Porsche?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'd like to think we're all pretty up to scratch when it comes to learning new tracks. We usually race car every single week. So, we're pretty in tune in that respect. But certainly, with testing and budget and everything like that, it's quite limited when you want to go and try different things. And especially with the RSR with so many, electronic aids and special features, that we aren't in control of all the time. It's just really cool to be able to try new features, try new things when we're able to go to the racetrack we have a rough idea of what it should be doing. It's for quicker feedback and if that's a good direction or not. But 90% of the time we can get a good feed on that and actually make a good change. When we get to the racetrack in real.
We've seen the development of all of these rigs, all of these setups, anywhere from the classic desk and clamped wheel to the multi-million, billion-dollar euro setups that you see with some of the top teams. But I think ultimately, core skills are still there. For drivers who are still sort of up and coming through the period, how do you feel like sim racing can sort of help develop you, well-round you, before you get to some of the bigger stages? Because my guess is that you definitely use the sim a little bit just to get a hold of the GT3 and get a really good feel for it as you were coming up through the ranks.
Yeah, I think that's different for everyone. For sure, learning tracks, playing with setups and all that sort of stuff can play a big role. But I think one of the most important things is just self-analysis, finding out how to go quicker yourself. Because, you don't have an engineer telling you what to do, looking into data or anything like that. So, really trying to find out yourself what you can do differently and where you can find the speed. So obviously when you get to a real track, you can understand yourself a little bit more and you can really pick up what you're actually doing in the current time. So I think that's really a good thing for drivers.
I want to dig a little bit further back while we're sort of on that subject, because for those who are aware, obviously you came through the Australian GT3 Cup program. That's really where you made your name and made the waves to get you noticed by Porsche. What sort of role did sim racing play, especially in that period of your career, to help you get acquainted with that car, with the tracks?
Yeah, I think that was hugely important, especially when I made my first step to Europe. Obviously joining Porsche, joining the motorsport program, and coming into the Super Cup, never raced in Europe, never driven on any of the European circuits or anything like that. And Super Cup, you're so limited. I mean, you get one practice, you get one qualifying, and then you're straight into the race. And so it's a compact weekend. If one thing goes wrong in practice, your weekend's basically over. So really making sure that when you get to the racetrack, you're going to be on the pace straight away, not wasting time trying to find brake markers or anything like that. You've got basically 20 minutes to work it out. And for me, just learning the tracks on the sim. So when I get there in real life, I can feel like I'm really, know the place already, like the back of my hand, but yet I've never been there before.
Are there any cases, any circuits in particular, where you have that sort of effect, where you spend a lot of time on the sim trying to figure out a place, then you get there and you really had the pace? Any places that jump out in particular where sim racing really did help you get acquainted?
Yeah, for sure there is some tracks that are extremely realistic now, especially with iRacing and the Porsche GT3 Cup. All the tracks, the cars are extremely close, but obviously not all the cars and tracks are available, where you want to go. So I suppose always the difficult ones are when you go to a street circuit like Monaco or something like that. You can't always press reset when you smash into a wall. So they're always quite difficult, but you always, can get rough brake markers and ideas, and they're relatively close, but for sure iRacing is the best at the moment.
When we talked to Earl, he said that he was in the process of getting a rig out to his farm in New Zealand and trying to find a way to get internet all the way out there so he could at least be racing in some form during these times. What have you been able to do to sort of keep yourself sharp? And I presume you've been hopping on the sim, if not on iRacing, then with Porsche a little bit to stay sharp?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, me and my roommate Jackson Evans, who's the current Porsche Junior at the moment as well, we've been living together in Stuttgart now since last year. Obviously, I've been there for a little bit longer, but middle of last year we finally got the sim sorted, and obviously as soon as this stuff started happening, we were on it flat out. So it's been pretty crazy. So many drivers, so many sessions happening. It's been a lot of fun, but obviously we've got to take it in turns. So we're always fighting over it, but it's a lot of fun. There's a health competition, and I think that's really fueling us for when it all gets started again.
I figure you probably got some favorite combos on the sim yourself. We know that the 911 RSR and then the GT3 are there, and I suppose even the Cayman too. I have to believe you've taken a little bit of time to wheel that around. So, any particular favorite car circuit combos that you've come to take a likening to?
Yeah, I think I've been trying a lot of different stuff lately. Obviously, I've got a lot of time on my hands, and we've been doing a lot of quirky stuff in the sim with a lot of different fun groups. But I've been having a lot of fun doing some Nordschleife races. My last one was VLAN 2 in the Cup with Matt Racing. Obviously, with his time now, they just started a sim team as well on iRacing. So we had our first outing in that, and hopefully I'll be able to do a few more. But, that was my first really... experience in a team event on iRacing, where you're changing drivers and everything like that, which is quite strange. But it's a lot of fun, even having a real world engineer in your ear. So, it was quite a different experience, but I was really enjoying it.
I don't think we need to explain to people what kind of a beast that circuit is in particular. Everybody knows how difficult it is. But I presume that it's really giving you a new look at sim racing, especially within this time, that you see how well modeled the tracks are, how well modeled the cars are. That at this stage, I would guess the only major difference is just the feel that you get and the sensation of speed when you're actually moving. So, does that change the way you drive the cars without it? Does it help you become better since you have to learn how to drive without all of that at your disposal? And I think in some ways you have to tweak your approach when you race on the sim as opposed to real life.
Yeah, look, I think at the moment, obviously with simulations developing, getting better all the time, it's always quite difficult in that respect because, things are always changing. So I think the most difficult thing on the simulation side, getting used to as a driver, is always the time model. It's not necessarily the car or the track or anything like that, but just trying to learn, and I think this is really good for it as well, and the self-analysis coming back into it, is learning how to get the most out of the simulation, the tyre, the car, the setup and everything like that. So, it can be really tricky at times. You got to get your thinking hat on and ask your mates, what they're doing, how they're going quick, and even doing some data as well, which has been really useful for us Porsche drivers at the moment, all working together and, trying to find ways to go faster on the simulator, which at the moment we've got a really good program. We're working together with our sim team, and a lot of us drivers are on there and having some fun during the week in some dedicated practice sessions.
How much do you think of what you've learned in this period is going to translate when you get back to the track? And I think what kind of testament is it to the way the technology has developed over the years that everything becomes more applicable because the program itself is so much more complex and so much more lifelike than it's ever been before?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one to say at the moment. It feels like I've driven a car for a year now. I mean, it's crazy. From going into driving a racing car every single week and then not having anything for 10 weeks possibly, it's quite crazy to think of. But for sure, we're doing everything we can, and the simulator is the best thing for us at the moment. Just trying to stay sharp, hand-eye reflex, and have some fun and talk with mates. I mean, I think that's a really big part about sim racing, and for us as Porsche drivers as well. There's a bunch of us on there. We're all having a really good time, but we're taking it really serious as well. We've got some good group of people around us. We're actually trying to do data. We're trying to do analysis. We're trying to figure out how to go faster on the sim, and just as we would in real life. So, look, I think it's hard to always carry across sometimes, but for sure, we're trying to do the same things on the sim that we want to do in real life. And, for sure, when we get back in real life, hopefully we can be on it straight away as well.
I want to dig a little bit into the 911 RSR since we've been running that car all season long. What sort of things do you notice with the RSR compared to real life? And are there any tips that you can offer at large to the drivers of PCA to try and get the most speed out of that car in particular?
Yeah, well, I think that's a tough one because I'm still trying to figure out how to get speed out of it too. But, I'm sure there's a fair few guys in there that can smoke me. But, the most challenging thing at the moment, I think, is with the RSR, is not, sliding too much, limiting the sliding and trying to really look after the tyres, because this is really having a big effect at the moment, I find, with this car in iRacing. So it's a big challenge, just like in real life. You don't want to be sliding too much. Obviously, our big focus is endurance racing, so it carries across as well.
So don't slide the tires and watch the rear brakes in particular, because I know that's what Earl made a big point of when he was on. We turned our attention in the fall to the Cayman. The GT4 is going to be the car that gets the call in the fall series. It'll be the first time ever that PCA has run that car in any of their sim racing series. Have you had the chance to work with the Cayman and the GT4, run it? And is there anything you can say about that in particular?
Yeah, I was actually driving last week with a bunch of drivers, and I think it will really be great racing. It will be close racing. Obviously, we've got some good aids on there, the TC, the ABS, and there's not so much tuning you can do on the car as well. So it should keep the field pretty tight, and some great door-to-door racing. But again, with this car, you can really hustle it a little bit more, make it move around. It's less aero dependent, obviously. And, it should be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm really enjoying it on iRacing, and I'm sure you guys will as well.
I think the wild thing for me, having had the chance to drive both of those cars myself a little bit between races, is it almost feels like a completely different driving style. You've got so much downforce on the GTLM and so much ability to sort of point it where you need it to go, and it'll sort of do the rest. But like you said, I think the Cayman, you really do have to sort of hustle and throw just because the downforce isn't there. But I almost think that it's a completely different kind of fun, too. They're both excellent in their own ways, but I think it's interesting. And I wonder, do you have any thoughts on how the driving style you use for the GT4 can translate as you sort of work your way up the pylon through to the Cup car and then to the GTLM?
Look, I think they've all got very different characteristics, but, the aim behind it all, I think on iRacing as well, going between these different cars is always trying to get, the most flow out of the car. It's very easy to, for example, overdrive, the RSR or especially the GT4 being a lot more underpowered and it doesn't have the aero grip. So just trying to flow the car as much as possible, and really trying to think about in opposite directions. So obviously with the GT4, want to think about the exits as much as possible because it has, so little power, whereas the RSR, you try and carry a lot more corner speed, but, you want to make sure that you're not going too deep in as well. So I think the characteristics are always very similar, but sometimes you kind of flip them around, but I think they always remain the same, and flow is so important, especially in GT4 car.
Flow and momentum, almost like oval short track racing here in the United States, where it's all about corner exit and all about making sure that you carry speed. Makes a lot of sense the more you think about it. So, Matt, I know there are a lot of people that are behind you, a lot of people that support you. Who do you need to thank at this time for helping you get your feet wet in sim racing as we sort of wait everything out?
Yeah, look, that's a tough one. I've got a few really close mates with me. We all started sim racing at the same time, and we're also sort of starting out in motorsport at the same time as well, and Formula Ford. So, a few close mates, we're still on the line together. Obviously, it's a little bit harder now. They're in Australia and I'm in Germany, so time zone makes things a little bit difficult sometimes, but obviously we've got a lot of time on our hands now too, so I can stay up late and, talk crap with them online and have some fun, but for sure, them guys, they got me into it just as I got them into it at the same time. And, we all are racers at heart. So, for sure, them guys who I started racing with back when I was, 16 or something like that.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for enlightening us a little bit more on the role that sim racing plays in your worlds. And we look forward to watching you when we get back to real life and get back to doing the real thing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Looking forward to it, and hopefully everyone can have a good race in the second race tonight.
We pick things back up here with about 13 minutes to go. See Joseph Stiefel continuing to lead the way. Cliff Kayer is running in second position. Aaron Nash running in third. Drew Kinney in fourth. Christian Rava in fifth. Patrick Gill in sixth. Igor Soiker in seventh. Bruce Robinson in eighth. Cameron Leslie in ninth. And Rodney Campbell now running out your top 10. Looks like there's a pretty hot battle here heating up for the fifth position between Patrick and Christian. See Patrick in that yellow machine, Christian in that Robin Zeg blue machine, almost like a turquoise color behind him. Headed down into turn 3, down that long, or turn 4, down that long straightaway now. And back with us is James Pike. And James, that was a fantastic interview. Thank you for taking the time to sit down with Matt, and we had a lot of good information from Matt.
I thought his comments in particular about the GT4 and in comparison to the GTLM were very intriguing, and it gives a lot of drivers and a lot of fans watching here an idea of what to expect when we go racing with the Cayman GT4. I think officially is the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR. I could be wrong about that. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'll go look it up just to make sure that I get it right and make sure that everything sorts itself out. As a little incident in front of Christian Rava, out of all these drivers, but Igor Soiker still in very good shape. That I think is the key, Ray Richard.
Yeah, Soiker, by the way, one of the things during the break, I was watching the race. He hit it hot into the Canada corner. Unfortunately, went right into the tire barrier, able to back it out, lost a good amount of spots. That he actually was able to lose the top spot right now with what seems to be Joseph Stiefel. But he got into the pit, got it back out. Still right now running in 7th position. Still has a chance right now to kind of keep it in the top 10 without a big issue. As we're looking up front right now as our leader of Joseph Stiefel is just walking away with this.
As it was indeed the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR, Ryan Bauer. And I guess, yeah, we could do a midway race break, but Joseph Stiefel still in front and rolling through all this.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the new car. From what we talked about, maybe drives more like a tin-top street car that some of the Europeans, a term they may be familiar with. But I think it's going to be exciting to just see the big group of people, in the PCA all starting a new car together and just seeing how the racing is going to shake down. I definitely know it's going to be interesting and exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think intriguing to see how that's going to pan out on multiple accounts and multiple occasions. I've heard that people find the Cayman to be a little bit more approachable than either the GT3 or the GTLM. So I think especially down to the rookie class and in the sportsman class too, you could see the action pick up, and we could end up with even more incredible PCA sim racing once we get to the fall and we run that car in Series 5.
Yeah, we're hearing from race control. We had a disqualification from Drew Kenny. He was in the 4th position, so that's going to move everyone up one spot in the running order. That's going to bring Christian Rava now up into that 4th position.
Rava to 4th, but Soiker to 5th, and that, quite frankly, is the only number that matters in comparison. These two are the ones racing for the title, but Rava needed to make up a significant amount of ground. It was 48 points he needed to gain on Igor Soiker. He's not going to gain 48 points at this point. Soiker, at this point, if you are the 28, you are riding out these final, 10 minutes and change or so, just making sure that you survive, because survival, Ray Richard, means the Series 4 Sportsman Class Championship.
No, that championship is exciting enough to make you speechless. I think that's what's going on with Ray. But yeah, these guys have ran hard and made each other work hard all season long. So I know even being in a position where you're maybe not going to come home with that championship, it's still a great feeling just to be involved in the scenario. And the drivers, you see them all season long pushing each other just to make each other that much better too. So I know these sportsman drivers have been really impressive all season long. So I look forward to seeing what will happen. Some of these drivers probably be moving up into the club class, I would assume, next year.
Potentially, yeah, you can certainly see it. It all depends on where all of these drivers sit as far as iRating goes once they hit the cutoff date for Series 5, which I believe is in August. My memory would need a little bit of jigging just to make sure I'm correct on that, but I believe August is at some point in there going to be the time, because I know the plan is for Series 5 to kick off sometime in September as it stands. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, to run the Series 5 and have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, so I could see having a good summer could move some of the drivers up. I know there's a lot of exciting series going on in iRacing on the road racing side of the platform, and with the newer content and stuff that we've seen lately, and just it'll be exciting to see if we see any new faces in the club class, but nothing else. All these drivers learning a new car together and racing around each other, that'll definitely be interesting.
Absolutely no question on that front at all. We have not raced the Cayman yet. We've run the GT3 twice. We've run the Cayman or the GTLM twice after the conclusion of tonight's race. We have not run the Cayman ever. I thoroughly believe it's going to be a tremendous hit.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Go ahead. Hey, Ray.
Yes, sir. I think I'm back again. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but right now our leader, at least 7 seconds split between him and second place of the 008 of Cliff Kayer. Nash in a third place spot. Again, another 6 seconds back to him. And, man, this is just spread out in the front. As long as Stifle just takes his corners, takes his time, go back to that patience he should be able to finish this race right on the point. Again, now leave it to 7.87 seconds as Cliff Kayer passes the start-finish line.
Kayer about 8 seconds back. Nash about 5 back of Kayer. Rava about 11 back of Nash. And then Soika right there on the rear bumper of Rava, which I think that's all he really could care to do. And I don't really think there's much more reason to push it at if you're Igor Soiker, you are a champion as it stands. Meanwhile, good battle back for 8th between Sean Benet and Cameron Leslie. Here comes Benet trying to hold off Leslie in the 00, but Leslie with that good move down to the inside going into turn 1. No question that Leslie makes it happen down to the bottom.
Leslie has it just for the moment, but it looks like there's going to be a fight back to the inside. Benet looks to the side of him. To the right side, drivers right down to turn 3 they'll go. He'll take it back right now over that 7th place spot. As 8th place spot. As ahead of them, Bruce Robinson goes into turn 5. He's all alone, long distance between him and the 7th and 8th place spot.
A lot of distance here, I think, between this group as everybody continues to weave, slide, and survive, I think, and work their way around Road America and just make sure they're in decent shape and good shape at that as well.
Closest battle right now I see is between 4th and 5th spot. Christian Rava and Igor Soiker actually holding on to that 5th place spot. He is coming up to the rear bumper of Rava now as they'll bring it down through the S's heading to Canadian Corner. 3 spots between them now make it 5 as Soiker still tries to take the hunt for the 4th place position.
Shahar Counts and Michael Walsall also had a good battle at 11th and 12th. Let's not forget them as they continue to circulate around Road America. And then Benet and Leslie and Soiker and Rava. That trio, I would say, is your set of battles that you need to pay attention to and watch as they continue to move around Road America. Benet, of course, we've talked about Benet a good chunk in this from the Lincoln Trail region, which covers a lot of central Illinois, Springfield, Urbana-Champaign. I believe that would be the home region of our own producer Ryan Bowers. So a big shout out to everybody in the Lincoln Trail region. And then in turn, Cameron Leslie, surprise, surprise, Peach State, as these things usually tend to pop up again and again in PCA Sim Racing, but the Peach State region, which covers the metro Atlanta area, has always been one of the strongest represented regions in all of PCA Sim Racing. They had their own league before PCA Sim Racing was its own thing, and they continue to do a lot for PCA Sim Racing. One of the heavy lifting regions of the PCA in this activity, I'd say they're up there, and Upper Canada is also another one that's got a tremendous amount of representation. Lone Star jumps to mind, Maverick region jumps to mind, Chicago region, Metropolitan New York, well represented. Carolina's got a few in as well. So, but then you've also got some of the smaller regions represented too. Ray Richard, you've got Charlie is going to be in the club race that's going to come up next, coming from the Coastal Bend region. He is the only participant in the history of PCA Sim Racing to come from the Coastal Bend region, which covers that southern panhandle of Texas. And then you got Jeff C. in this race, who comes from the High Desert region, which covers northeast Oregon. So it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not your region is big or small. You can be competitive in PCA Sim Racing no matter what, because it's all about driving talent at the end of the day.
Still looking at a beautiful race these guys are putting on, representing all over basically the globe. Of course, a lot of them here in America, as we're watching our leader way out front. Actually, the gap has gone down by a second, James, to 6.736 between him and the second place spot of Cliff Kayer. But keep in mind, we're towards the end of this race. Right now, they're on lap 21. There's going to be 22 will be the final lap next time around as Stifle leads his field right down through, and it looks like he'll take it down to turn 2.
Probably 2 laps to go indeed, just with the way the clock is sitting. You are right about that, Ravenshire, and it is very much Joseph Stiffel's race at the front. But the big story at the end of this, Igor Sojker in the 5th spot, would be champion as it stands.
Rava right now holding him off for that 4th place spot, but still a top 5 is right within his grip. Farthest back behind him is Patrick Gill. Gill going down to turn 1 right now, and as that's happening, probably about 5 to 6 seconds between the 5th and 6th place spot. Sojker able to take and hold on to that for quite a while he's trying to find his way around Rava with lap traffic going down that long stretch at turn 5.
Everybody's sorting their way down towards turn 5. You've got Patrick Gill, who's sitting a little bit further back of Sojker, too, as well. And then Katz and Wassel still fighting for spots. Rava, though, just ahead of Sojker at this point, could have a proper battle for that 5th spot. And Sojker might not only try and get the title, but he may end up trying to beat everybody else in the championship fight, too.
Rava overdrives that last corner just a little bit, able to take Sojker up a little bit on him. They'll head down to turn 7 before the carousel. Left hand hard one down through. Both of them cars sideways in front of them through the grass. That was a lap car of the 71. I can't see the name offhand, but again, these guys through the carousel. This is all for the top 4 spot. Sojker trying to make up a little bit of time. He hit the brakes because of the lap car that was sideways in front of him before the carousel, and still able to take an in hunt of that 4th place spot of Rava.
It was Mike Neiden who went around in front of Rava and Igor Sojker. So Neiden slides around the Pete State Racing driver in a little bit of trouble, and Rava and Sojker continue to shuffle on. But this is the kind of battle I think we wish we had seen a little bit more this season, if not for Rava's struggle to qualify. I think that's the big thing we note here. Rava had plenty of times where he had pace, he had speed, and just never could quite get the starting position. And this is where I think we probably expected to see Rava throughout this year, but not quite enough times in Series 4. And Joseph Stiffel now begins to circulate his final lap at Road America to pick up the victory in the Sportsman class finale tonight at Road America.
Kristen Rava there in that 4th place spot again with Sojker right in tow. This will be the final lap. Keep an eye on that 28 of Sojker. He's got to catch him and try to make his move this time. But again, if I was him, James, I would honestly sit still where I'm at, because there's no reason to lose the place that he's in to catch his championship this evening.
No problems really for Igor Sojker here, who could sit behind Rava, take that 5th place finish, and still be in good shape. Joseph Stiffel in front of this field, running through the carousel for the final time, and the driver out of the Chicago region of the PCA, not too far away from yet another win in the Sportsman class.
Rava right now with a whole mirror full of Sojker. He'll take to the inside, now the outside, all over the bumper of this rear of this 88 of Rava. Rava holding them off, able to take it down to turn 7. Another left-hand hard turn, hard on the brakes. He'll lock the front end up. That'll give the advantage of Igor to the outside. Now through the carousel, they'll go. He'll try to arc the car down to the bottom, but not enough to catch him on the way out. Maybe a little boost of speed down through the S's when he catches up to that point.
And as they continue to battle, here comes Joseph Stiffel through the final corner at Road America and back onto the front straightaway, up the hill with the lights flashing as Joseph Stiffel will come across the line to win the Series 4 finale in the Sportsman class at Road America. And now all eyes here on Sojker and Rava. They work their way through Canada Quarter, and it is still Rava ahead of Sojker. So Rava would gain a little bit in the points, but it won't matter at all in Sojker's mind, because as they come through the corner, one last final dive from Igor Sojker. And as they come up the hill, it's a little bump and maybe a friendly love tap at that, as Sojker will come up the hill, trailing Christian Rava almost side by side, try and get the spot. He won't get the place, but Igor Sojker will bring the PCA Sim Racing Series 4 Sportsman class title back to the Chesapeake region.
And that hard run at the end shows exactly why he's championship material tonight, James. Beautiful run by Igor Sojker, and a great run by everybody in the battles on this track this evening.
Igor Soiker, champion of the sportsman class. A big, big moment without question for him. He's been a bit of a stalwart without question in PCA sim racing for a long, long time. So no surprise. He's one of the originals, one of the drivers who was around at the beginning of all of this. And at the end of it all here tonight, has finally picked up a PCA sim racing championship.
Great racing all around this facility this evening, but still 2 more to go yet this evening, James. 2 champions crowned, 2 more to go. Should be a fun time watching these last 2.
Wait and see who's where, who's doing what, and who's up to fun stuff. Waiting on the final few cars to come around and finish off the race and wrap everything up. Sam Yao is the final car on the lead lap to finish off tonight's proceedings. He's joined by Julian Velez to come around the corner, and these 2 are the last folks who need to wrap up the race before we turn our attention to the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Joseph Stifel comes home in P1 over Cliff Kerr and Aaron Nash. Christian Rava finished in 4th. 5th went to Igor Soiker, and Patrick Gill finished in 6th. Bruce Robinson finished in the 7th spot. 8th went to Sean Benet. Rodney Campbell came home in 9th. 10th was Russell. Cameron Leslie is 11th. Shahar Katz 12th. 13th went to Trey Drawhorn. Scott Ferris 14th. 15th went to Brian Swift. Donald Binkley in 16th. 17th to James Hsu. 18th Sam Yao. 19th Brandon Jadot. James Bernard in 20th. 21st was Nick Shandy. Colin Thomas was 22nd. 23rd Henry Rogers and Brian Granger 24th. Stephen Bukowski 25th. 26th was Paul Solk. Thomas Lee was 27th. 28th Antonio Da Silva. Jonathan Patterson 29th. And Ian Simon 30th. James Legault in 31st. 32nd is Trent Young. Owen Pruden was 33rd. 34th Chris Duffy. Drew Kenny 35th. Ed Nelson 36th. Jody Ponfer 37th. 38th went to Alex Hellier. 39th Julian Velez. And 40th went to Mike Nyden. It was Scott Nell, Augustine Ray, Russell Van Zyl, Randall Ayers, James Gallo, and Jeff C., who rounded out the field tonight in the sportsman class. A tremendous, tremendous, tremendous run from all these drivers, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely, James. I'll tell you, it's the first time I've actually had a chance to watch these Porsches, and it was a fun race to watch. I mean, even on a road course this long of 4 miles, just twists and turns, and obviously tire wear was a factor. Didn't seem like fuel was a factor as much as you thought it was going to be in the beginning, but again, no complaints here, lots of the action.
And we now turn our attention first to your race winner. It was Joe Stifel who got it done for the Chicago region. And Joe, just a really solid, really clean race. I'm guessing that you might have a little bit of experience here. This isn't too terribly far away from home. So a big moment all around for you in the 003.
Well, thanks. I can't tell you what it means to win here. If I had a nickel for every time I stood at turn 5 with all my friends and watched these guys go around in real life, I could buy every car on the grid. So it means the world to me to win at Road America with these drivers. The quality of folks all season. Craziness.
So you've seen a lot of racing here. You probably know this track pretty well. Are there intricacies that you sort of felt like you had picked out above everybody else just because you spent so much time here?
You know, early on in the week, we had a lot of races, and I've seen a lot of passes in 5. I've done a lot of passes in 5 in real life, and into Canada and things. But you can't miss a beat here with these guys. Everybody up front is so fast, and people found speed at the end of the week. Just amazing. But yeah, a little bit of watching people get past and being passed here helped a little bit.
A little bit. And to end this series, I know you've had speed, haven't necessarily quite gotten the finishes that you deserve, but to wrap it up with a win and come out on top, a good feeling too, no?
Oh my gosh, it's huge. I had a real rough middle of the season there at Road Atlanta, coming into the first turn there when you guys had me on the broadcast, my actual physical steering wheel quit working, and then going into turn 1 at Sebring, my internet dropped, and I had a disappearing act there in turn 1, so that ruined it. So it was great to come back and actually finally race with these guys, Cliff, Jeff, Igor, Jeff or Michael Wassel, fantastic guys, and Christian Rava, sneaky fast all the way up the order, and he's sitting pretty right now.
I know there are a lot of people that you need to thank for tonight's run, Joe. Who do you need to send your thanks and your shout out to?
Thank you. I wanna dedicate this win to all those people I've sat at turn 5 with, all the fence rats as we're called, all those people watching at home. Certainly Keith, Donna, Warren, Jen in her kitchen, Andy, John, and my cats. My cats have given up a lot of time, so big shout out to my cats.
Joe, congratulations on your victory tonight at Road America, and enjoy bringing that trophy back and that P1 back to the Chicago region.
Thank you very much.
Joe Stiffel, your race winner. It is now time to bring in your champion. The man on top of the sportsman class in Series 4 for PCA Sim Racing is the Chesapeake Region's own Igor Soiker. And Igor, tonight's race, just solid top 5 speed all the way around. The title was a pretty good hand so long as you finished top 10. Were you ever really all that worried about it?
I was a little bit. Sean and Christian, they're very fast drivers, and I know they're always going to put some pressure down on me, so just held it off this time. And congratulations to Joey for winning this race.
You come away with this as a title. You've been one of the most active, the most involved drivers in PCA Sim Racing since the beginning. So to be around as long as you have been and to come away with a championship in PCA Sim Racing, just talk about what that means to you, having seen the rise of this activity.
To be honest with you, I'm impressed how well everything has been organized by PCA. They just did an amazing job putting everything together and running everything along with the podium. Just everything has been top notch, and I'm very impressed and pleased to be a part.
Pleased to be a part of it. I think the bigger question is, now that you are a class champion, how do you go celebrate, and how do you take this one in, I guess?
Well, we'll get some champagne. I'll spray it around the house, and we'll see how that goes with the wife.
Make sure you do it outside, I guess, not inside, right?
That's right.
Pretty good idea. Igor, I know there are a lot of people that make it happen for you. Who do you need to thank for making it possible?
GTP, of course. My family, they support me in everything that I do usually, and it's a good thing. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am now. So, and I'd like to thank PCA as well, and you guys for doing a great.
On behalf of Podium and PCA Sim Racing, Igor Soiker, congratulations on your sportsman class title in Series 4 of PCA Sim Racing.
Thank you.
Igor brings it home and brings home the title in the sportsman class. We'll take a quick break, and then on the other side, when we come back, it will be the club class season finale as you watch coverage of PCA Sim Racing from Podium Esports at Road America on the iRacing Esports Network.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Low. 4 wide at the stripe. For Audie's win here on this outside line. Neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Welcome back to coverage of PCA Sim Racing from Road America. Our third race of 4 set to kick off here in about a minute and a half as the club class takes to Road America and begins their final campaign of Series 4. And the point situation here, pretty simple as well. Kenny Brown, Charlie Yao are the 2 you'll want to watch. Brown comes into tonight with just under a 60-point lead. It's 56 points, 2150 to 1994 between those 2, which in turn means that Kenny Brown can clinch the title with a finish of 9th or better.
Well, looks like he's got a clear shot at it right now. He is on the point. Qualifying position at 2 minutes, 1 second, 0.584, right to the second of Antonio McCartney at 6:06. Just about 20 thousands, 20 hundredths actually. 20 thousandths actually separates the top 2. I'll get my math right. My apologies on the delay there. Either way, Charles Yao there in 3rd place at an 8:08. Not much. You go blanket over these top 3, even the top, well, actually all the way through the top 10 with these guys in the first qualifying lap of the race.
They'll continue to push on here. And also of note, Brown, I actually even got my math a little bit twisted. Brown has 10th that he could drop to as well and still be assured the title no matter what happens as we get set for this final race of the club class and find out where all your favorite drivers are going to be starting with Kenny Brown, who will start his campaign for the series title from the pole with a qualifying time of 2 minutes and 1.584 seconds over Antonio McCartney and Charlie Yao. Joshua Vieira will start from the 4th spot. 5th will be Grant Talkie. Liam Radzitis begins tonight from the 6th spot. 7th will be Sergio Paisan. It's Saibal Banyopadhyay who start from 8th. 9th will be Lynn Wilson, and Greg Forward starts from 10th. Matthew Siddle begins from 11th. 12th will be Michel Levesque. Dewey Kang rolls off from 13th. 14th will be Brett Holmes. Mark Harris begins tonight from 15th. 16th will be Mario Gonzalez. James Craig begins from 17th. 18th will be Jeffrey Smith. Donovan Waltman will start from 19th. 20th will be John Montgomery, and Jacob Shum will start from 21st, just ahead of Father Jonathan Shum. 23rd will be Michael Evans. Jake Steinberg starts from the 23rd spot. 24th will be Steinberg, actually. And 25th will be David Stewart. Jeremy Mazzariello starts from 26th. 27th will be Robert Cottle. Keith Powell starts from 28th. 29th will be Peter Yerksha. Stephen Prudence starts from 30th. And Richard Franco rolls off from 31st. 32nd will be Matt Mitchell. R.E. Moore Jr. starts from 33rd. 34th, the Claus Nielsen. Evan Close starts from 35th. 36 will be Alexander Soduk. At the very back of this group, it's Michael Schmitz, Frank Santore, who will roll off this evening. And Sam Yao is the final car lined up on the grid as we get set for more racing from Road America. We'll take another look at the track facts. We haven't had the chance to peek at those in a little bit, but this is Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It's the full course layout. It's the full 4.048 miles, 6.515 kilometers that we get to take you around 14 turns on this circuit. We race in the morning. iRacing Day, 7:45 a.m. in sim of May 15, 2020. Air temp 65 degrees Fahrenheit, track temp 67 degrees Fahrenheit, winds to the north at 2 miles an hour, and a humidity of 55%. So, all action to come your way, Ray Richer, as we get set for race number 3 of PCA Sim Racing.
And if that's one thing I like, especially on these road courses, is a lot of action. We've seen in the first 2 races, 3rd or 4th race tonight, 3rd race of 4, I should say. These guys will roll it down into turn 1 as our pace car. Porsche as well, by the way, will get quite ahead of these guys, and they'll try to catch it up going down through turn 2. But again, great racing in the first 2. I think we're out for another race again, or at least great some action from Kenny Brown and McCartney there on the front row, especially with the times that they put out in qualifying.
Plenty of times that are going to be worth watching and keeping up here. It will be all about Kenny Brown in this deal and all about the driver in the number 23 who is going to lead us to the green and make everything happen in his fantastic Target Top Porsche. Everybody loves the Target Top, breathes the Target Top, lives the Target Top. It's become a fan favorite paint scheme amongst the drivers across the whole of PCA Sim Racing, and I figure it'll be a very popular celebration if he can get it done. But for him, it's going to be about avoiding trouble on the front end. We know it might not necessarily be easy because there are some fast drivers out there. Antonio McCartney's had speed at points. Charlie Yao has been around at times. Josh Vieira has had the fastest car at some points over the course of this season. Liam Radzitis has 2 wins in this class. So it's a stacked field in this top 10 of the club class.
The only thing I've got a problem with, James, with a 4-mile course is the pace laps are long. So we're getting through this pace lap. These guys are all caught up, basically ready to go racing. We're into turn 6 and 7 right now, going down to turn 8 before these guys bring it down to the carousel. Again, as we announced earlier, these guys will race hard down through this left-hand turn. They've got to get down through the gears pretty quick right here as we see our leaders get ready for the left-hand turn into gear 1, and then again the long carousel, they'll probably bring that thing up to about 3rd gear, maybe 4th. And if you're in the car with them, you'll hear a lot of throttle control because again that front end's going to want to push right towards that sand trap, and that's one thing you want to avoid this today is one of those sand traps. It's going to be hard to get back out of, but again, able to recover, but still going to lose a lot of time if you get off track. As we seen earlier, we had one car go in the grass and it was just a little tap. It made him go around, unfortunately lost a good 10 positions at that point in time. Again, that was in race 2. I don't remember the name, as they bring it down now through the S's heading to the Canadian corner.
Working their way through Kettle Bottom on their way to Canada Corner, and then the final section of this racetrack, the Bill Mitchell Bend and turn 14 to lead back onto the front straightaway. This long sort of sweeping, meandering, wandering. It isn't quite straight, but it's not terribly far off from being a straight. And then you do get down to Canada Corner and have a lot of fun trying to sort yourself out at Canada Corner before you come through Thunder Valley and that slight uphill towards Bill Mitchell Bend. Just a very tricky corner in and of itself to make things happen. A very tricky place that you got to be careful of when you watch and roll your way up through the corners here at Road America, as Kenny Brown will lead them to green and be the driver who will try and lock up the 3rd class title of the evening from the points lead. Going to be all about Kenny Brown here as they continue to push on, and we continue PCA Sim Racing Series 4 final night, season finale night with Racing from Road America. All Kenny Brown as he waits to get on the gas and waits to go and take off. And Kenny Brown will have the moment now to take off. He's off, and we are underway with the Club Class season finale in Series 4 of PCA Sim Racing. Brown with a good jump ahead of Antonio McCartney. 3 wide back for third as Charlie Yao bounced off of Josh Vieira. That's Grant Tolke who went to the inside to get around Charlie Yao, and Tolke slides up into P4. Nice move for the 941 to take that spot.
Vieira right now, third place spot. They guys finally fanned out as they went down to turn 1. Single file going down through turn 3. These guys are trying to shuffle it up automatically right off the bat. Interesting run as we watch Kenny Brown basically start to walk away from this pack, going down that second long stretch into turn 5. He's pulling away from that car, the 23 of Kenny Brown, right now, going down to turn 5, excuse me.
Here comes Liam Radzitis looking to the inside of Charlie Yao. That would be for the 5th position, and Radzitis makes that happen easily. So another one for the Upper Canada region drivers. Already got a few wins in this class in Series 4. Brown's still out in front of everybody. Tolke sitting in 4th. Everybody shuffling their way through 7 and 8, working their way towards the carousel for the first time.
Keep an eye on that 28 of McCartney. He's going to have a rear end full of Vieira here shortly. Vieira just got a lot of speed out of that third place machine right now, number 75. He's able to pull up to him, but he was close last time off of turn 6, just not enough to take and get by him. Again, this is only the first lap of 23.
The first lap of 23 potentially. That's what the time estimates say. Got a 45-minute race on our hands here. We'll just see how Kenny Brown tackles things as Antonio McCartney continues to follow suit ahead of Josh Vieira. Grant Tolke, Liam Radzitis looking for a good battle. It may well be between Charlie Yao and Sebal Benyopanjai, but everybody just, I think, minding their own business at this point. It was an adventuresome opening first few corners, but they really have strung themselves out quickly in this club class.
Yeah, at least about 5 to 6 car lengths between the top 3 of each. As we see Brown come off of turn 14, up the hill he'll go, still pulling up along that long distance between him and second place of Antonio McCartney. McCartney right now looks to be gap of about a half a second behind. They'll take it down to turn 1 and keep an eye on that 23 of Brown because, well, I was going to say it's going to expand the gap, but it looks like McCartney made up for a little bit of positions there going down to turn 1.
They continue to sort themselves out. A very good battle developing between Grant Tolke and Liam Radzitis, who all of a sudden has caught that number 941. Same for Charlie Yao and Sebal Benyopanjai. Those two racing for the 6th position just behind. But here comes Radzitis with a big run. Gets the draft on the backside of Tolke. Jumps to the outside. Tolke sits dead middle of the road and then jumps to the inside for that all-important preferred line going into 5. Not much that Radzitis is going to be able to do there, so he'll just head to the outside as Yao is able to defend his position from Benyopanjai.
Our drag race for the top 4 and 5 positions finally pan out. They'll come down through turn 5, now into turn 6. Nobody's gained, nobody's lost, with the exception of up front. Again, Kenny Brown leading this pack. No change between him and second place, but third place now, count Vieira there for a shot up for the top 2.
Another tight run from Radzitis, who continues to hound Grant Tolke, gives him no room, no margin for error, and you can tell the speed's there on Radzitis. No question, I think he's got the faster of these two cars. They work their way towards the kink and begin to shuffle towards Canada Corner, and it was Tolke who got a way better run through Canada Corner, or not get the kink rather, that last time by, so he'll have breathing room as they actually approach Canada Corner. That won't be where Radzitis makes the move, at least for now.
He'll try to catch back up to Tolke, but Tolke pulling away for that 4th place spot. I think if Radzitis gets by him, there's going to be a chance he's going to go for the top spot in this race. Again, long way to go, as I said before, but regardless, the top 2 right now, Vieira and McCartney, still battle there for the 2nd place spot. Vieira right up to his bumper for a short while, but backs it off about 3 car lengths. Up the top, front straight they'll go.
Kenny Brown still in control and your race leader and your points leader too. He's got room to finish anywhere in the top 10 to be the champion outright no matter what happens with the rest of this race. McCartney continuing to hold off Vieira for the moment, but a lot of good battles up in the front say 10, 15 cars in this field. You got McCartney and Vieira for second. Radzikis gets around Talkie. Talkie goes around in the corner. Contact there. Oh, one car hard into the side of Grant Talkie. Couldn't quite tell who that was, but they all wrecked right by the Briggs and Stratton side. It was Lynn Wilson who had nowhere to go. Michelle Levesque stuck there too, just trying to hang on. It's an absolute mess in a funnel part of the track and just a really difficult place to get out and try and get around. That's about the worst place you'd want to wreck here at Road America.
Yeah, especially when you're getting back on the throttle off of that corner, heading down to turn 2. Back up front, Kenny Brown now still trying to hold off McCartney. McCartney closing in slowly, but here comes Vieira again, top 3 to throw a blanket over these guys down through turn 6.
So after all that madness, it's Brown, then McCartney, then Vieira, and Radzitis now has 4th as Charlie Yao is up to 5th. Benio Pontiac up to 6th. And then a good battle between Greg Forward and Brent Holmes for 7th and 8th. But as we look a little bit further back, Jacob Shomes did a nice job coming up through this field. He's chasing Mark Harris in the 19 car, and everybody else still in good shape. Maybe McCartney and Vieira might be the next big battle to watch.
Yeah, because of Talkie's unfortunate spin there, losing the rear end off of 1. Rositis comes up now in the 4th place position, and he is closing in on Vieira. Actually, pretty good pace right now. He'll bring it down through the S's into Canada corner, and all the top three will slow down, and he'll do the same, but a little bit stronger through that corner, catching up a little bit more of a pace to the 3rd place of Vieira.
Continuing to charge is Josh Vieira. He's got speed. Well, watch lap times this time by as they work their way out of 14 and onto the front straightaway for the last time. But my hunch is that Vieira might have the faster car of those two. We'll see if timing and scoring confirms just that. And as they hit the stripe here at Road America, it is indeed Vieira who was faster only by a 10th that last time by, but still faster than Antonio McCartney in second. More importantly, though, Liam Radzitis was a half a second quicker than both of them. It was 7/10 to be technical, but same sort of deal we had, I think it was a sportsman race actually, where the driver in 4th is faster than both the driver in 3rd and the driver in 2nd.
As I was saying before, keep an eye on that 0.5, James. That Rositis, I'll tell you, he is fast. As you just said, a couple of tenths of a second faster than the top 3, and the top 3 are still battling it out. Vieira, McCartney, Brown. Right now, Brown, at the last lap time, he was 772, excuse me. Before that was 0.5, so he is gaining his lead just a little bit. But these guys are still following the same line. Nobody overdriving the corners. Again, throw a blanket over these top 4. Just a great battle up front yet.
A great battle up front, especially between McCartney and Vieira and Radzitis, who only continues to gain on both of these drivers. So we may be watching what happens between Vieira and Radzitis. That may end up being a battle before McCartney gets any sort of challenge, because Radzitis is charging right up to the rear bumper of the 75.
But there is another battle looming behind them for 5th and 6th place, the 17 and 770. They have been fighting it out for the past 3 laps. Again, the 770 got up to his bumper. Again, here he goes again, down through the S's. They'll head to Canada corner, which is turn 12 to the inside. He'll try it to the outside. He'll try it back and forth. They keep swapping. Now they'll get side by side through Canada corner, and that'll give him overshoots the corner. That'll give Yao the advantage. Still side by side down through turn 13 up through 14. They got to be careful because they can overdrive this corner pretty hard, heading to the final turn on the course.
Wild stuff between Charlie Yao and Sebelman Yopantiai, who will back it down at least for a bit. I think he tried to set it up so he could get that early exit out of 14 and run down Charlie Yao going into 1. He may well just do that anyway with the draft that he's picking up down this incredibly long front straightaway. And as they continue to push on, let's make note of the fact that Greg Fullwood is right there, and this is a legitimate 3-car battle for the 5th position.
And don't count Holmes out. He's watching for these guys to slide off the track as a 770 will take over that top 5 spot. Still a great battle between these 4 cars. So we got 2 battles, one up front with 4 cars, and from 5th on back to 8th with 4 cars.
So a trio of cars now trailing Benio Pontiac, who's beginning to separate himself. Meanwhile, Radzitis was faster by about a half second again on Josh Vieira. McCartney actually stretched it out on Vieira that last lap. So this is going to be all about Vieira and Liam Radzitis for the 3rd position within the next few laps.
Rositi's just closing in on that 75 of Vieira. He's got the sharper car most of the time on the backside of this track, going down to Canada Corner. But again, as we see him bring it down through turn 6 right now, heading towards turn 7. Just an even shot right now between the top 4. Nobody getting, nobody losing. They head down to the carousel turn. You're real wide for Vieira. He'll take in Arquette a little bit harder. He'll make up a little bit of time. We'll go back to the 5th place right now of the 770 machine, actually way out of front of the 17 of Charles Yao's.
Charlie Yao continuing to roll behind Bajapaj, who has stretched it out a little bit. He's gotten some breathing room. Meanwhile, Greg Fullwood and Brett Holmes are in a nice battle of their own for 7th and 8th. Those two have come back together once again after getting a little bit mixed in with the Bajapaj and Yao battle. Meanwhile, still Vieira holding off Rodzitis, but for how much longer? Because he's losing ground to McCartney. McCartney's starting to stretch it out on the 75 and open up the gap between 2nd and 3rd.
Kenny Brown still walking away. He's got basically second and a half lead right now. He'll come up to the stripe. We're going to see that grow 1.655 up to, once the second place car hits it, my goodness, it's going to be at least 2 seconds. 2.79. That's a gain of about 1.5 seconds just on one lap alone, James. Antonio McCartney seems like he's wearing his tires down, which is giving Vieira a great shot to take over that second place spot. But don't count out that 0.5 of Ruzitis, because he is gaining up on Vieira the past couple laps, just inching up to him ever so slightly.
Rodzitis continuing to charge and try and run down Vieira. That gap between lap times was not as big as it's been the past few. It was down to a 0.2 advantage for Rodzitis that last time by. But main point, I think, is that he's there on Vieira, and Vieira is going to have to be careful if he wants to maintain this spot. Also begs the question, if Rodzitis can't make this pass, do you try and pull pit strategy and maybe look at the undercut perhaps to get around any one of Vieira or McCartney, especially if you're Liam?
Well, I'm going to say I agree with you on the pit strategy, especially if he's got even times kind of slowing down, because these tires are wearing. I mean, we're on lap 6 right now. These guys have been racing hard. I mean, they've got at least a 15-second gap back to the I'm going to say the 9th place position of Jeffrey Smith in the 16. But these guys have been running harder than anybody in the pack. Again, your other 4 from 5th on back to 8th still battling, not running as hard because these guys are pulling away from them from the top 4.
As they continue to push on and continue to work on. Kenny Brown still in good shape. He's up ahead by about 3.5 seconds on McCartney. Vieira, Rodzitis, all right there. It is a 3-car battle now, veritably through Canada Corner for that second spot. McCartney has it. Vieira, I think, wants it, but also has to be wary of Rodzitis, who wants both of these spots, and now is going to have the opportunity to draft Vieira coming out of 14. What kind of run does Rodzitis get out of that final quarter? What kind of draft does he get off the back of the 75?
Great run off of 14. He had that corner tight. He gained a lot of spots on Vieira using that draft down the front stretch. He gets close to his tail, not setting up the pass just yet. Patience, patience, patience. I've said it before. He's got to wait for Vieira to slow down in a corner and then realize next lap that's the time to get him. But right now he's doing a fantastic job keeping that 4th place spot and right close to 3rd, waiting for his chance to pounce.
It might be here. We'll see what kind of run Vieira and Rodzitis get, but it could be on at 5. You see Vieira duck to the inside to defend the racing line. Coming up to this corner, you know Rodzitis is going to get the run. Going to be all about when and where he ducks out and or if Vieira leaves him room, and it's not going to happen here. Rodzitis just stalking now. Very intriguing work from the 05, and I think you might be onto something, Ray. This may be about patience. This may be more about trying to force Vieira into a mistake than it is just outright trying to pass him.
Well, the other thing is, too, there, James, you got to keep in mind, you got to concentrate on your laps. You're also looking at what your car is doing, because every lap with those tires fading, every corner is going to change just a little bit for you. And obviously, you've got to change with the track and the car. And they've all seemed to be doing that flawlessly at this point. But as Vieira goes a little wide on that turn, gives Rodzitis a little bit of an advantage to catch up another car length as they go down through the S's. They'll take and downshift down through here, upshift as quick as they can, down through the S's they go to Canada Corner. As they're entering down through, keep an eye on Canada Corner. Remember, we've seen a couple guys overdrive that corner tonight, and I thought it was going to be turn 13 that was going to be the Achilles heel, but no, this seems to be the spot this evening.
might just be the spot. Might just be the spot indeed as we wait and see. And I think it comes back to the same passing zones that we talked about in the Sportsman race, where you look at 1, you look at 5, you look at maybe 8, and then 12, Canada Corner in particular. Those 4 spots are the places where people seem to get passes done at Road America. I wonder where Liam Radzitis will go to try and make this one happen.
Well, with those tires again, he seems to be hanging on very well. We see Vieira go to the inside of turn, trying to set up a pass for second place spot, and he will overtake McCartney. And at the same time, Rositi spins it, turns out of turn 1, trying to overtake that third place spot.
It was just that weird little random bit of contact between McCartney and Liam Radzitis, but Radzitis goes around, and a racing incident through and through, both fighting for the same spot on the track, and that ends up being a 50-50 more often than not, both in iRacing and in real life. If you have someone go around, could be that lead car, could be that car in the back. This time it was Radzitis that went around and McCartney that maintained the spot, so Radzitis now all the way back to 8th, McCartney back to 3rd, as Josh Vieira ends up the big winner and goes to 2nd, albeit all of them are still 3.5 seconds behind your race leader and your points leader, Kenny Brown.
Absolutely. With Vieira, I'll tell you what, that was a huge advantage to him. Great way to set up at turn 1. As I said, you got to keep an eye on McCarthy and see where he was doing wrong, but he had the speed, he had the draft down that front stretch, and decided to push in at turn 1. Unfortunately, Ruzitis was the victim of circumstance when he lost her end. It looked like he just touched the grass a little bit, and that would have made the car loose enough to go around like it did.
Maybe did touch the grass, perhaps, but I think more than anything else, it was just close quarters racing, and everybody was just on top of one another. So now that spaced out the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. There is some breathing room. In the next best battle on track, you slide back to 5th. That's where Charlie Yao is. He's with Greg Fullwood and Brett Holmes. Other good battles on track include 11th, because that's where you'll find Matthew Siddle and Mark Harris. And then Ari Moore Jr. and Michelle Levesque in 21st and 22nd. Also in a good battle, along with Mario Gonzalez and Stephen Prude in 26th and 27th.
Well, keep in mind there, James, a number 6th place position, 7th place of Yao and Fullwood. They had a 4-way battle between the 770, 17, 991, and 6th of Brent Holmes here about 2 laps ago. Obviously, we have spread out quite a ways, but Yao right now with a rear mirror full of Fullwood coming down the front stretch.
The best battle within the top 10 without question as Fullwood continues to press Charlie Yao and continues to try and take over that 5th position that Yao has held just about the whole way around. Fullwood out of the Delaware region, Yao out of the coastal Bend region of the PCA. It's Delaware versus South Texas. You go way, way, way down towards Brownsville and Corpus Christi to find where Charlie is as Charlie continues to work his way towards turn 5. Here comes Fullwood with the dance to the inside, then to the outside, then look to the inside again. And Yao, I think, sat in the middle of the racetrack enough to keep Fullwood at bay, at least for the moment. But that may drag Brett Holmes back into this battle and make it a 3-way fight for 5th.
Yao trying to find his way around turn 6 right now, still holding off that number 9091 of Greg Fullwood. Fullwood still in his tire tracks, using whatever he can of the draft. Again, on the corners, it doesn't hurt to kind of be in those tracks by any means, but obviously you want it on the straights. Down through turn 7, they'll take it to the carousel. Again, no advantage, no disadvantage, but if I go back in the field a little bit further, I just saw another battle that was between the 9th place and 16 car of Jeffrey Smith and the 32 of Dewey Kang. Actually, these guys take it down through the carousel right now. Little course quarters, and behind them is Sedal there in the 26 machine. So they are getting close there from 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Beginning to tighten up indeed are Smith, Kang, and Siddle. Maybe not quite as tight as Yao and Fullwood, but certainly making their own case for a really solid battle as Mark Harris continues to try and hound Siddle at the back of that train. Elsewhere, it's just Ari Moore Jr. and Michelle Levesque that are right on top of one another, and they nearly make contact with one another too. But it is indeed the big battle here as Dewey Kang, I think, was able to get around Jeffrey Smith there and take over 10th.
Yeah, he took the advantage of that lap car through Canada Corner and actually took over the 9th place spot, I believe, right now. Dewey Kang in 9th, Jeffrey Smith in 10th. They'll come off of turn 14. Up the hill they'll go as we check on our front runners right now. The gap between 1st and 2nd has shrunk just a little bit. 3.2 last lap, 2.868 this lap. And as they go down the long stretch on the back, Had a little bit of lap traffic to contend to from Vieira there in a 75 machine. Again, not too bad. He'll move out of his way as they go down through turn 5 or head to that direction. Go to the inside. That's a left-hand 90-degree turn. He's going to have to downshift pretty quick as he gets tapped by the lap traffic, and Vieira into the fence off a turn. Looks to be 5 right now.
Big incident there. Jacob Schum gets in the way of Josh Vieira, and Vieira was just trying to get to the outside and widen his arc into turn 5, and instead turn right into Jacob Schum and ends up on the fence. So that will slide Vieira back into 7th. Not a major issue, but Vieira ends up around and unsorted, and that will move Saibal Bagno-Pagai into a podium position. A good run for the 770. He's just continued to climb up the leaderboard. Started in 8th, currently runs in the 3rd spot now.
Another good battle right behind them between Yao and Fullwood again. Yao through turn 7, that 90-degree before the carousel, locked up his front brakes, able to take it back up, but Fullwood took the advantage, knocked off about 2 car lengths. They'll come out of the carousel, down through the S's, heading to Canada the corner. And again, about 2 car lengths back. Great battle, lap traffic to contend with. Yao will go to the inside of that. A little bit of flashing lights from Fullwood. Fullwood able to follow him through, down through Canada corner. Let's see if he takes the advantage here. Everybody smooth through the corner to the inside to the outside. Now to turn 13. Again, right in his tracks. About 2 car lengths separate those two.
Fullwood just a little bit too far back in Canada corner to make it happen, but if he gets the right exit off of 14, he can set himself up for a move into 1. What kind of run does Fullwood get off the corner? What kind of drafting help does he get? It may be decent as they come up the hill. They continue to climb. Here comes Fullwood, inching up ever closer on Charlie Yao. He might have the opportunity. He ducks to the inside. Yao didn't even bother blocking, tried to pinch. They're almost on top of each other going into turn 1. Yao will try and hold on the outside. Fullwood stays there and makes the pass, and a very nice job from Greg Fullwood to get around Charlie Yao and take over P4.
But not without a challenge. Fullwood trying to fight back. He was able to take over that spot. But again, they'll take and have a challenge down the backstretch. Brett Holmes actually right in tow with these guys. They cut off a lot of time and allowed Holmes to catch up to them in that 6th place position. Now Holmes got an opportunity to take over a top 5 spot.
Holmes now looking. Big move from Yao to try and get Fullwood back, but to no avail. He locks it up a bit on exit. So now we're watching Yao and Brett Holmes, and Josh Vieira is in the mix too. And oh, by the way, Liam Radzitus, who got spun out going into turn 1 not too long ago, also in the mix. So you got 4 drivers who are all over the place when it comes to pace, and they all seem to be converging right around 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. It should be not just one good battle across this group in the next few laps.
Vieira's got to calm down just a little bit. He gave the advantage to Rosizis because Vieira overdrove that corner coming off of 6. He was in the grass for just a second. Great recovery by that man. Vieira right now in that 7th position. But again, Rosizis in tow, and ahead of them, Fullwood, Yao, and Holmes in the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
As they continue around and sort themselves through the fantastic run through Ken Bottles into Canada corner, we're going to take a moment to bring you our next run through our VRS Midway Race Break, which as always is brought to you by the Virtual Racing School. VRS is the official setup provider for PCA Sim Racing and is home to a wide variety of tools to help you become faster. Learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion Real Fowler, 3-time iRacing World Champion Martin Krunke, inaugural iRacing Rallycross champion Mitchell DeYoung, and other top sim racers. Kenny Brown leads this race over Saibal Bagno-Pagai and Greg Fullwood. Charlie Yao runs in the 4th spot. 5th belongs to Brett Holmes. Josh Vieira runs in the 6th position. 7th belongs to Liam Radzitis. Antonio McCartney currently runs in 8th. 9th is Matthew Schittle. Antonio McCartney sliding back to 10th as he comes down pit road. Dewey Kang up to 9th. Michael Evans at 11th. Jeffrey Smith in 12th. 13th, Keith Powell. 14th, Jeremy Mazzariello. Peter Yerkes runs in 15th. 16th belongs to Jonathan Waltman. Claus Nielsen runs in 17th. 18th to James Craig. 19th to Arnie Moore Jr. And Mark Harris currently runs in 20th. 21st is where you'll find Mario Gonzalez. Robert Cottle runs in 22nd. 23rd to Frank Santori. And Stephen Pruden runs in 24th. 25th to Alexander Soduke. Richard Franco runs in 26th. 27th belongs to Matt Mitchell. And Michelle Levesque runs in 28th. Jacob Schum runs in 29th. 30th belongs to David Stewart. Evan Close is 31st. Michael Schmitz is 32nd. Jonathan Schum is 33rd. Lynn Wilson runs in 34th. 35th belongs to Sam Yao. Grant Talkie sits in 36th. John Montgomery in 37th. Jake Steinbrink in at 38th. And Sergio Paisan was the last one to start tonight's race. And that concludes our VRS Midway Race Break. And for more information on the Virtual Racing School, visit www.virtualracingschool.com. As Kenny Brown still the man in control by 8 seconds over Benio Padjai, but pretty good battle here between Yao and Vieira and Rodzitis and company. They're all over each other coming through Canada Corner.
Holmes was side by side with Vieira for quite the distance on that last long run into turn 5, but he lost it coming down to turn 5 with Vieira out front. These guys have been battling head-to-head, side-to-side for the last lap. Just throw these guys right in the same mix with each other as we watch Yao make a nice corner off of 14. And Holmes right now with the advantage past Vieira. He'll take over that spot, but both of those guys will go down pit road.
So here comes Yao. Here comes Holmes in for service. This is the first big move along with Kenny Brown. Your race leader is in. So Benio Padjai, Vieira, and Rodzitis are now your top 3. You would expect them to come down pit road within the next few laps or so.
Keep in mind, Riuzitis and Vieira both losing the rear end on turn 1 tonight as we see Riuzitis get past Vieira on turn 1 tonight. These guys able to hold up these cars after recovering. What a recovery right now for the top 4 as Kenny Brown ended up going into his pits, by the way. He's in for his service time as a 70-70 takes over the top spot.
So Benio Padjai in control at least for this lap. We'll see what else comes along as Rodzitis, Vieira, Siddle, and Evans are there. Mazzariello sits in the 6th spot. Those cars all yet to pit. Fullwood came down pit road as well. McCartney came in for service a few laps ago. He continues to charge up through this field, out just ahead of Greg Fullwood there, or Brett Holmes rather. So McCartney and Holmes together and racing for spots. Ari Bourne Jr. up to 12th, even though he's yet to pit, but just about everybody making stops within this lap or maybe the next. Have to believe that Benio Padjai, Rodzitis, Vieira, and company will be in soon. But for now, I think if you're Benio Padjai, you enjoy this lead that you've got. It's almost 9 seconds over Rodzitis.
Yeah, he's got quite the lead out front as I've been watching Vieira and Rodzitis here in the 3rd and 4th place spot. Again, Kenny Brown took his pit, so he's actually in 3rd and 2nd place, these guys right now. But yeah, I'm going to put my money that these guys are going to come down pit lane this lap right now. If they don't, I think it's kind of ludicrous to keep out there in front because they're going to have to take it, and these tires are just wore down.
Tires are a bit worn, although you can save it. We're looking at some of the stop times here, and very few drivers actually making these full stops for actual 4 tires and fuel. And we wait to see. Here comes Rodzitis in for service, along with Benio Padjai, Vieira too. So, yeah, just about everybody here on lap 13 coming in. We'll see if Siddle comes. Yes, he does. Michael Evans will be next in the group. We'll see if he comes down pit road for service. Does the 980 make the move? He does. Mazzariello is next in line, and he may well look to pit road for service to everybody in. So there's your pit cycle all wrapped up and completed well and truly.
I believe this is going to be the lead given back to the 23 of Kenny Brown. He'll come down the front stretch. We'll get the scoring all caught up right now as our guys are in for pit. Kenny Brown, Greg Fullwood will be in 2nd. Charles Yao, I believe, will be in the 3rd place position as he comes off of turn 14 right now as I see him. And we'll cycle through right now and get all the pit stops done. And again, I believe that Kenny Brown will be our leader once things are said and done.
And Jacob Seelman now joins us up here in the booth. And Jacob, I think the interesting battle to watch here, Kenny Brown and Sebal Benio Padjai have been in pretty solid control of the group up to the front. But this group from 3rd on back that's battled all the way through this club race. Fullwood's gotten a little bit of breathing space, but McCartney, Vieira, Brett Holmes, Charlie Yao, everybody in that bunch, they've been on top of each other all night long.
They have been, and that's what I think makes this club class so much fun because more or less this is a coronation ceremony for Kenny Brown as long as nothing crazy happens. So you're watching the battles for position. You're watching the drivers who are trying to close out Series 4 with a victory in the finale tonight at Road America. But you're watching this battle for the final spot on the podium because you're right, Pike. That's been really almost exhilarating, I think would be the right word to use for these drivers who are trying to get one last gasp at glory here in the final race of Series 4. But, as we talk about all that, of course, all eyes, I think, have to be on the 23 of Kenny Brown, who has been nothing short of spectacular through the first 7 races, repping the Peach State region strong. It's appropriate, isn't it, that the first region of PCA sim racing that really got this whole thing started is what's going to be celebrated and coronated here, we believe, at the end of about 18 minutes or so from now, when Kenny Brown should lock up this championship.
Should, barring the unexpected. Remember, 10th or better gets Kenny Brown the title and gets, I think, the Peach State region's first title in PCA sim racing if he can hang on. Meanwhile, how about Vieira, McCartney, and Holmes and Yao? I feel terrible. It's almost broken record status between this group. That just trio quartet refuses to let go, but McCartney and Holmes is really the one to watch. And I think the interesting one, maybe McCartney out of all this group, just because he's had speed and then it seems like he's ended up in incidents in a few cases, but this is the most complete run up to at least this point in a club race since we made the move to 4 different races on Friday nights that McCartney has had. It is a new high watermark for him now, and the question is, can he finish it off in the final 50 minutes and come away with the top 5 that you would argue he probably deserves?
Oh, he certainly deserves it. It's been impressive to watch him over the course of this season, and you're right, he's had the speed, he just has not had the luck, and I think a lot of people would like nothing more than to see McCartney finally be able to put it away and get a P5 result, the result that, really, as you mentioned, he deserves. 19th in points absolutely does not belie what he has done all season long in representing the First Settlers region. He's been much better than that and should have had finishes much better than where he's ended up most of the way through. As stops have cycled through, though, we mentioned this being a coronation ceremony. How about Kenny Brown cycling out to the lead over Shaibal Bandyopadhyay by about 2 seconds now as we work our way through what's going to be the 15th lap around the 4 Mile Road America circuit. So everything's shaking out, but it's Fullwood now with a bit bigger buffer over Josh Vieira in that battle for the final podium spot in 3rd.
Fullwood has stretched it out a little bit, and maybe I'm a little bit nuts and crazy, but if I didn't know any better, I'd say Bandyopadhyay is closing just a bit. Watch timing and scoring as they come across the line. Kenny Brown flashes the lights to, I think, try and move some lap cars the way Frank Santoy's the next one up the road, but he's got a little bit of time before he has to actually really fight and do much of anything with Kenny Brown. But last time by, indeed, Bandyopadhyay was faster by about 0.2 of a second. Not much, but the gap has come down over the past half lap from about 2.1 seconds to 1.4. Unless Brown is relaxing, Bandyopadhyay is beginning to make his charge for the race lead.
It's going to be interesting to watch, isn't it, as they work down turn 4 to Moraine sweep at turn number 5. And this is so, I enjoy, of all the corners at Road America, Moraine sweep down to 5 and 6, that complex, one of the most intriguing places, aside from maybe Canada Corner, at this entire racetrack, James. So much fun as they work under the Corvette Bridge through 6 and 7. This track, there's a flow to it, but at the same time, it is very technical. Despite being a 4-mile slog, there's a lot of places where you can get tripped up if you're not careful.
And also a lot of braking zones where you can make passes happen. We've made the point over the broadcast about the main ones. Turn 1, turn 5, turn 12, and 14. That's 1, the obvious one right before you get to the Briggs and Stratton sign. Then the Moraine sweep into 5, that downhill braking zone we talked about all night long. Canada Corner, turn 12. And if you're really lucky and smart, 14. And you can make the argument that if you set it up right, anywhere between 8 and 10 in that run up to the carousel also could qualify as some of those spots. So,
gentlemen, if I can interrupt you just for a second, Joshua Vieira actually just passed Craig Fullwood for 3rd, heading for that podium finish. These 4 cars back from 3rd to 6th between Holmes, McCartney, Vieira, and Fullwood have been a crazy battle for the past 2 laps. Just kind of keeping an eye on that battle to see where Vieira comes. But again, Fullwood trying to take back that 3rd place spot going down through 13.
Fullwood with plenty of pace, plenty of speed, and you just don't know who's going to come out on top in this group because there is so much talent, there's so much speed. Vieira started to stretch it out on Fullwood, makes me wonder if he might be fading and losing a bit of pace. McCartney's been solid, he's right there. Brett Holmes is also in the mix. Charlie Yow's the one that's fallen off of this group. He was there before pit stops, but had a little bit slower stop than the rest of them. It was about 6 to 7 tenths slower than the average. So Yao has slid back, and he's a bit of a no man's land driver at this point, kind of halfway between Brett Holmes and Matthew Siddle in the 26. But that battle from third all the way back to sixth, Jacob Seelman, is just all over the place.
It is, but at the same time, even though Charlie Yao is in a bit of no man's land, as you mentioned, the one good thing for Yao is he is ahead of Dewey Kang, and that's the battle that was tight coming in here for the runner-up position in Series 4 points, and something that I was kind of gently keeping an eye on as we go along. Meanwhile, the leader has worked his way under the Corvette bridge. Kenny Brown trying to work his way down to Hurry Downs and then into the carousel once you get past turn number 8 here. So they head for the carousel 9 and 10, that sweeping right-hander. And for Bandyopadhyay, the gap has closed a little bit, or at least it had closed down to 1 second. But then just as quickly now, Bandyopadhyay is out of the frame all of a sudden. Not sure if something happened moments ago, but that battle for the lead may not be a battle any longer.
It was Bandyopadhyay who ran onto the grass coming out of turn 5 and smacked the fence in between turn 5 and 6. So another mishap for Bandyopadhyay, and that's sort of been the story for the 770 since his podium finish at Spa in class. Just hasn't quite had the consistency to avoid trouble, and he slides out of that second spot down into 6th, and it's Vieira that now controls P2 over Greg Fullwood, and then McCartney and Holmes. And Bandyopadhyay now is right in the middle, pretty much dead equidistant between Holmes and Yao for 5th and 7th.
Vieira comes off of turn 14, still holding off Fullwood. Fullwood had a couple chances to get by him, didn't take the advantage, went outside, inside. And if you look at Vieira, he's cutting the draft, go down the front stretch right now, swerving that car left to right. It'll actually cut the draft for a few moments, sort of like Indy cars at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A little flash of the lights, Fullwood letting them know that he's there, but he ain't going to give up. Vieira right now for the second place spot. Still a great battle from second all the way back to 5th.
Welcome to Mind Games, Greg Fullwood style. I'm absolutely here for it across the board and in no question or form at all. Fullwood already trying to pull everything, and you see Vieira responding. He's driving pretty much every lane you could drive down the Marine Straight to turn 5. You could pick low, you could pick high. Vieira's just trying to make that 911 GTLM as wide as he possibly can before Fullwood gets a nose alongside it.
So while that battle for second continues to rage on, what's interesting there is that's actually afforded Vieira and Fullwood a chance to battle for podium spots and have a second and a half gap back to Antonio McCartney in the 4th spot now in that 28 car. So McCartney now going to be the one chasing a podium position and trying to make up ground. As that battle, one car slides a little bit wide, McCartney has to take some evasive action going into the carousel and backs off briefly, and that's going to allow, I think, Brett Holmes into this mix as well. Meanwhile, well clear of this battle, if we pick up the leader, Kenny Brown has worked through Canada Corner down to Thunder Valley and Mitchell Bend and going to be headed back up the hill momentarily as we come to well inside of 10 minutes ago. I guess it'll be about 7.5 minutes to go when they get back to the line.
7.5 minutes left for Kenny Brown to finish this out and gets the class title. The Club Class Series 4 championship is his, and he only needs a spot in the top 10, and he is clear of 10th place Mario Gonzalez, maybe more importantly 11th place Robert Cottle by almost 40 seconds as the battle continues to rage for the 3rd spot. Big run for McCartney coming down the front straight to the inside. He will go with Greg Fullwood.
McCartney trying that inside line down through turn 1, door-to-door. Fullwood way wide, able to hold him off by a car length. He'll fall back behind Fullwood. Right now, McCartney trying to get a line back on it. Now, I got to give kudos to Joshua Vieira. The man spun. He lost like 10 positions. Pit strategy put him back up in that 2nd place spot, and now he is driving away from that 3-car battle behind him from 3rd to 5th.
Vieira just with a consistent pace, I think, more than anything else, which I think he's married with the pit strategy. That's what's calling him out in a lot of these races. And now that he's figured out that you don't necessarily need to take tires, you're in good shape. Meanwhile, Fullwood off in the grass. So there goes McCartney. And Brett Holmes almost had to check up and is going to try and force the issue, but not enough to get around the 991. So Fullwood maintains P4. McCartney gets some breathing room, and Holmes will sit in fifth still for the moment, but for how much longer?
And that was a big mistake for Greg Fullwood coming up to the Corvette bridge and then down headed towards turn number 8. So now they head into the carousel. McCartney is now third. Fullwood falling back. Actually, McCartney's pretty well left by about 4 or 5 car lengths as they work through the carousel and head on down towards turn number 11. That very fast kink, James Pike. And I don't think we give the kink enough credit sometimes for just how crazy that part of the racetrack really is.
And just how tough that corner can be. It's one that you think more often than not you can take largely full throttle, but it's one where if you approach it like you can go full throttle, more often than not you end up in the fence over there right as you begin to make your way onto the kettle bottom. So you just have to be very diligent and careful about how you tackle that corner as McCartney locks it up in 14. So Fullwood now comes back to the inside to try and get third.
Side by side up the hill, Fullwood in the grass, able to get behind him, hold on to the position as McCartney tries to take and cut the draft a little bit like Vieira did earlier. Side by side using all the racetrack. He'll keep him at bay. A little bit of flashing headlights going on there, letting that lap car know that they're coming. Down turn 1, McCartney takes and holds off Fullwood down through the grass, able to hold on to it and hold off Holmes down through turn 1.
They're just all over the place, and this is just madly impressive as Fullwood now will have to hold Holmes back for P5. McCartney is the one who gets the breathing room, and Vieira is outright gone. 5 seconds he's gained on this, and to think that he was a part of all this madness some maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, but Josh Vieira now very solidly in control of P2, but Jacob Seelman, they still are all chasing Kenny Brown, who really has backed it all. Furies gave up about a second to Vieira that last lap by, but when you've got 10 to play with, you can do fun things like that.
How much Vieira had suddenly cut in to the race lead that Kenny Brown had amassed. But Vieira, as you mentioned, sitting very quietly, very solidly in the 2 spot now, ahead of that continued battle for third between McCartney and Fullwood. As second place Josh Vieira works through the carousel, 9 and 10, heads down towards the kink. We mentioned it a moment ago, very, very high speed, perhaps the highest speed section of this racetrack. And you slide it wide and do not want to end up in the fence, as James mentioned a lap ago, going down into the kettle bottoms. Meanwhile, the battle for third, not giving up, some 6 seconds behind Josh Vieira. McCartney still has it. Fullwood still wants it, headed down to Canada Corner.
McCartney still wants to hang on to it. He's got a good run and gets out and makes sure and pushes on and covers everything, and he's in very good shape. Very, very strong spots here, and all of a sudden, I wonder if McCartney may be able to just end this once and for all. You would think, but then Fullwood's been able to pull a few rabbits out of his hat more than once, and he got another good run off of 14, so he'll get a big draft off of McCartney. Maybe have the opportunity to get the spot back going into 1 again.
McCartney using that whole racetrack, cutting the draft, but not enough. Right now, Fullwood to the outside. Not the particular place to be in this corner, but he has the speed.
What a move.
He'll carry the momentum down through turn 1.
Unbelievable stuff from Greg Fullwood, the outside of turn 1 at Road America, which, Jacob Seelman, you almost never see passes happen on the far side of that corner, and yet here we are. Greg Fullwood's just used that particular lane to jump up into third.
I am flabbergasted. What a move by Greg Fullwood to get the podium spot back, and now it's McCartney back on the attack, under braking as they work their way down to 5, and McCartney with the counter punch headed to the Corvette bridge. This battle for the final spot on the podium, absolutely electric between McCartney and Fullwood. These two tit for tat every single corner, every single lap as they head towards turn 8 and into the carousel.
And let's not forget that Brett Holmes of the Las Vegas region is sitting right in the tire traction of all of this and is more than happy to take over some positions if either one of these two slip up. So as great as the battle's been between McCartney and Fullwood, they have to be careful and watch their backs in some degree and in some capacity, because their shots at a podium finish are not locked down just yet, even if those two keep fighting it out.
1.25 laps left. Right now, lap 21, 22 to come up. McCartney right now with the advantage. Fullwood's been overdriving a little bit, been trying some pretty radical moves, as you saw down in the turn one, and he tries it again in Canada corner to the inside, touching the grass with the right side tires. Gains up an advantage of about a car length. They'll go down to turn 14, contend with lap traffic. They'll take it to the inside, gains a little bit there, 1 car length behind down the front stretch.
Maybe. Here comes Fullwood again. McCartney with that lap traffic, making it easy and sort of blocks Fullwood's momentum. There's not much he can do as they continue down the front stretch. It's Fullwood to the outside. Surely he can't make lightning strike twice going into one again, Jacob Seelman, no?
I wouldn't think so this time. Fullwood going to try it, and I'll tell you what, this battle has been incredible, hasn't it? Fullwood, I think, going to be able to take it back for the moment. Meanwhile, well ahead of this battle, let's go ahead and pick up the leader, James Pike. Shall we? Head it up to the Corvette Bridge, the 23 of Kenny Brown, half a lap from home, and I think at this point we can safely say, let the coronation for Kenny Brown begin. What a season 4, what a series 4 he has
McCartney
had.
loses it.
McCartney lost it coming out of turn 5. Battle there with all the madness in the corner. And I wonder, did he get help or did he just lose it? He lost it on the curb all by himself. No help there for McCartney. So he's the one who loses out in that podium battle. But Kenny Brown still in control of this, working his way through the kink down Kettle Bottoms to Canada corner one last time.
Yeah, what a Series 4 that Kenny Brown really has had, James Pike, and no pressure from behind as he works the final couple of corners here at Road America. This has been an ultra-dominant performance in the second half of this race, really in the second half of this series, to Thunder Valley and Mitchell Bend for the final time. He'll head into turn 14, start the long climb up the hill to the checkered flag and to a PCA championship.
It is all about Kenny Brown, and tonight the Targa Top is on top of the PCA Club Class. Kenny Brown wins the Series 4 season finale at Road America, and Kenny Brown is your Series 4 PCA Sim Racing Club Class champion over Josh Vieira, and Antonio McCartney would be in third, but it's going to be Greg Fullwood who comes home with that final spot on the podium. But Kenny Brown, and for the Peach State region in particular, Ray Richard, when we consider their association with PCA Sim Racing, they have never had a class champion. This is unquestionably the biggest moment they've had so far as the racing goes in the history of PCA Sim Racing. One of their own is finally a PCA Sim Racing champion.
Very happy for Kenny Brown. He ran a phenomenal race tonight. In fact, to give you an idea, Josh Vieira, who made up that time getting up to the second place for a podium finish, 10-second gap, 9.88 seconds between the first and second, and these guys just did put on a killer show tonight. I was glad to be part of it. These guys, I'll tell you what, phenomenal racing, especially between the top second on back to fifth.
And Kenny Brown, Jacob Seelman, you look at his championship run, consistency. When we had the mixed class races, it seemed like he was top 3, top 4 every class, and then you spread it out, and he was top 5 once we split up and went to the individual classes. Absolutely no stopping Kenny Brown whatsoever.
Not at all. And he carried a 156-point lead coming into tonight. So, yes, it wasn't a true lock, but as we mentioned, a top 10 finish was all he needed, without question, to settle it. And he gets the championship. I think the bigger thing for second, it was 30 points between second and third coming into this. And with Charlie Yao finishing just ahead of Dewey Kang by 1 spot, they were 6th and 7th, respectively, at the final flag. That is second for the Coastal Bend region, and Dewey Kang for Metropolitan New York's region. He comes up 3rd in the final standings, but those two were in lockstep for much of Series 4, and I think it's fitting, isn't it, that they finish nose to tail here at the finish of this?
We'll take a look at your full field rundown, tell you where your favorite driver finished. It was Kenny Brown on top and winning the class title over Josh Vieira in second this evening. Greg Fullwood comes home in third. Brett Holmes finished in the fourth spot. Fifth went to Matthew Schittle this evening. Sixth to Charlie Yao. Seventh to Dewey Kang. Antonio McCartney with that last lap spin drops back to eighth. Ninth was Mark Harris. And then 10th, Jacob Stillman, was Mario Gonzalez.
Yeah, 11th tonight goes to Robert Cottle. Keith Powell is 12th. Liam Radzitis is 13th. Jeremy Mazzariello is 14th. 15th to Jeff Smith. Michael Evans comes up 16th. 17th to Jonathan Waltman. James Craig is 18th. 19th is Michel Levesque, and Matt Mitchell is 20th.
It was Peter Yerksha in 21st, 22nd to Claus Nielsen. Ari Moore Jr. was 23rd, Alexander Soduke in 24th. 25th to Frank Santori, Richard Franco to 26th, Shambhala Banyopadhyay back in 27th after smacking the wall in between 5 and 6 while running top 10. Jacob Shum in 28th, 29th to Michael Schmitz, and Stephen Pruden finishing out the race in 30th.
31st tonight goes to Jonathan Shum. Jake Steinbrink in 32nd. David Stewart was 33rd. Evan Close 34th. Lynn Wilson was 35th tonight. 36th after such a strong run in qualifying. Grant Talkie. Sam Yao in 37th. John Montgomery in 38th. And the final car to take the green flag in the club class race tonight in 39th. Sergio Pashin, 22 laps in arrears.
We now bring in our race winner, our club class champion out of the Peach State region of the PCA. Kenny Brown now joins us in the booth. And Kenny, the race itself, you made it look so easy. What just clicks about this place? Where did you find the speed, and why did it just come to you? No one else here.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think that race was won in qualifying. I think whoever had a chance to get out some clean air, that was a huge benefit. There were a lot of guys racing really hard behind me, which allowed me to kind of break away and just kind of settle in. So it turned out well.
It turns out well. You dominate this race, control it from flag to flag, and you are a club class champion, a PCA champion. First, what does that mean for you personally to be able to call yourself a champion of PCA sim racing?
It's super exciting. It worked out well with the way the classes broke out and everything. But honestly, it's been a growing experience all year. I had some wins early, but then through the middle of the season, a lot of guys got really fast, really quick. So for me to have a clean race from end to end and be able to control it like that, it's really icing on top of the cake.
And I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the Peach State region's involvement here, only because they've been so invested with sim racing. Well before PCA got involved on the national level. This is a region that really values sim racing as a tool, both to sharpen driving skills and to bring in new fans of Porsche life, Porsche culture, Porsche racing into the fold, to get one for Peach State and become the Peach State region's first ever PCA sim racing champion of any kind. What does that mean to you?
It's pretty exciting. I've got a big group of guys. My Discord's lighting up right now. Everybody's giving me congrats from the local guys. We just finished up our league last week, so it's a huge honor to represent them. It's a great a lot of guys that are also involved in the national series. Matt Mitchell, Andrew Elson, Mike Dunn, all those guys put in countless hours, and it's greatly appreciated.
Kenny, I know there's so many people that make it possible for you. Who do you need to thank for making it possible tonight?
Well, as usual, my family, they put up with a lot of this, 6 or 7 weeks, Friday nights in a row. They put up with a lot, practice during the week, so big shout out to them. My team, LTFB, they pulled together, and we've done pretty well in both of the sportsman and club class, so thanks to them.
Target's up on top in 2020, right, Kenny, I guess? Go off the party now, maybe?
Yeah. I'll go to my other room and sit down and social distance in there, so it'll be good.
Not a bad plan at all. Kenny, on behalf of PCA and Podium, congratulations on tonight's victory and your club class championship. Go out, go enjoy it. I know you got a lot of people that you need to go party with.
Exactly. Thanks for everything you guys do. Appreciate it.
Kenny Brown, your club class champion of Series 4 of PCA Sim Racing. We'll take another commercial break, and then we come back with the final race of the night. The big boys take to Road America. The Pro Class crowns its champion, and all eyes on Michael Polasek to see if he can cap off a spectacular season with the title. We'll be right back after this break here from Road America on the iRacing Esports Network.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Lowe. 4 wide at the stripe. For all he's with here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call. Welcome back to coverage of PCA Sim Racing on the iRacing Esports Network as we get set for tonight's grand finale for Series 4. It is the Pro Class 45-minute race to wrap things up at Road America, and our coverage tonight
brought to you in part by the Virtual Racing School. VRS is the official setup provider for PCA sim racing and home to a variety of tools to help you become faster. Learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala, 3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke, inaugural iRacing Rallycross World Champion Mitchell DeJong, and other top sim racers. For more information on the Virtual Racing School, visit www.virtualracingschool.com. And James Pike, as we've been building up to this, it is almost time. And we mentioned that the last race was pretty much a coronation ceremony for Kenny Brown. Not quite as simple. The gap almost half that for Michael Polasek as he looks to bring a title to the northern New Jersey region in the pro class. He has been the dominant force. He will start on pole, we believe, but it is not a walk in the park. He is going to have some work to do because this pro class field, as close as we have seen it time and time and time and time again.
Time and time and time again, indeed. Although Polasek made the very particular point of making sure that we knew his gaps and we knew his numbers coming into tonight. And if you're looking for numbers you need to worry about, 12th or better gets Michael Polasek the title. He's got the tiebreaker for most wins over Jason Lisner, who sits in second in points. Those two, I think mathematically, just the way things shake out, there may be a chance that Leif Peterson could get to the title, maybe even James Hughes or Jeff Lewis, if everything goes haywire. But this is Polasek's title to lose. There's no question about it. He just has to make sure he comes away with a top 10, top 12 finish. And I'd say, rise of the Polasek is complete, because it really has been. It's something we've talked about. It's been maybe the largest overarching theme of this particular class and maybe a PCA sim racing. This has been the series in which Polasek has taken all the raw talent he showed last year and put it together in style. And it's now all about him.
And can we reiterate, by the way, he's 20 years old. He is one of the kids of this series, and he has been nothing short of brilliant this year. He's going to start from pole alongside John Malia. They're going to make up the front row for this 45-minute race at Road America. Jason Lisner and Von Glace on row number 2 with Jeff Lewis and Leif Peterson in row 3. James and Mark Hughes, boy, that's a row, isn't it, Pike, on row number 4. And Chris Pies and Matt Kiekas complete in the top 10.
Greg Carr and Doug Metzel will start 11th and 12th. 13th to Chris Walsh, and 14th to Arthur Chan and Jordan Dyer in the 15th spot. 16th is Carlos Lopez. Stephen Cugliari starts in 17th. Alberto Fonseca in 18th. 19th is where you'll find Ryden Heidenreich. Matty James starts in 20th, and then Brian Mousing, Juan Alvarez, and Sammy Yao, your final cars in this 23-car field for the final race of Series 4, the season finale for the pro class of PCA Sim Racing. As we take a look at the track facts one more time, this is Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It's the full course layout. 4.048 mile, 6.515 kilometer track with 14 turns. Again, we race in the morning. It is iRacing Day, May 15th, 2020, and about 7:45 local time. Same sort of temps we've seen all night long. 65 degrees air temps Fahrenheit, 67 degrees Fahrenheit track temps, winds to the north at 2 miles an hour, humidity of 55%. And so we wait. These cars will begin their pace lap at about 15 seconds, and it's a long one here, but it gives us a chance to sort of look across everything and look at some of the storylines. Polasek is the headliner, but Malia and Lisner have been quick too. Von Glace has shown speed after really coming through, I think, in the middle of this series. Chris Pies, Matthew Kiekas looking for another opportunity to sneak in one more top 5 or top 10 before we break for the summer. Just a lot of different stories to look at, Jacob Seelman, tonight.
There really are, and one of the stories that I'm looking at as far as points are concerned going into this is the battle for 4th in the standings between James Hughes out of the Hudson-Champlain region and Jeff Lewis out of the Potomac region, tied on points coming into tonight. So more likely than not, whichever of the two, Lewis or James Hughes, that finishes ahead of the other one in this final race will be the one that comes out with 4th place in the standings. And really, if something were to happen to Leif Peterson, could have a shot at a podium finish in the championship for Series 4. So 2nd through 5th are decently compacted here when it comes to the standings. And it's going to be something that we'll want to watch a little bit as the race goes on. But you mentioned it, all eyes are going to be on Michael Polasek, that bright neon green and blue number 45 machine that has been the immovable object, or the greatest force, if you will, James.
Unstoppable force.
Unstoppable force.
You know how that works.
Hey, listen, I'm going, much like you, I'm going into hour number 4 of broadcasting tonight, so forgive me if I have a little bit of a slip here and there.
I don't think the race spot people would care all that much, to be fair. They'd say, oh, you've done 4, we've done 6. Come on now.
Well, we like our friends at Race Spot. It's okay.
This is true. I can second this most definitely. As Polasek comes around and we begin the final pace lap of the PCA Sim Racing season. But don't forget, Sunday night, a special event, the Virtual California Festival of Speed is coming up, and we're going to see all 3 of the PCA Sim Racing machines that either have taken part or will take part in official PCA Sim Racing competition all in one night. GT4s, GT3s, and the GTLMs that you're seeing here all going to race on the road course at Auto Club Speedway. It would be regular California Festival of Speed weekend, this upcoming weekend, but in lieu of the real deal, bring it to iRacing, run it there instead. So you'll see some of the top sim racers from across the country in the Porsches jump in, and we should have a lot of fun on Sunday night. We'll have more information coming up on Podium Esports social media and PCASimRacing.com as well. But that should be a very entertaining show to wrap up the spring season for PCA Sim Racing, Jacob.
Underneath the Hawk Performance Bridge, the field goes and headed down towards Canada Corner as we work this pace lap. It's long pace laps at 55 miles an hour here at Road America, but heading through the last little bit. Oh, one car scrambled out towards the wall, James, there on driver's left. Not sure what happened back in the field as we get set to come to green.
James Hughes and Vaughn Glace are the 2 that ended up around, so they will effectively start from the back of the field. And one of those cases where you could end up just traveling along so much and end up just sort of trucking along that you end up losing your concentration and forgetting where you need to be. We'll see if they can get back up to the proper pacing spots before we get to the green flag, and hopefully not too much chaos here as they begin to work their way towards turn 14 to start off our final race of the evening.
Indeed, they will. Michael Polasek going to be on driver's right as we get to round turn 14 and climb the hill towards the green flag. It's Polasek, it's Malia on the front row as the pace car makes the hard turn onto pit road. They climb the hill. Michael Polasek leading the field underneath the Caterpillar Bridge. The green flag is in the air, and the Pro Class, the final race of Series 4 for PCA Sim Racing, underway. On the jump was Polasek, but it's Malia trying to go to driver's left as they head down to turn number 1. That outside lane, we saw it work earlier, but I believe Polasek under braking with the advantage. He will take the lead.
Everybody just bunched up in 1, but they keep it clean as they come through 2, working to 3. Polasek ahead of Malia, and then Lisner side by side. Big move to the inside for Chris Pies to get around Leif Peterson. Mark Q to the outside of Greg Carr to take that spot. Here comes Matthew Kikish looking to the outside, then maybe to the inside as they work their way towards turn 5 for the first time.
Headed towards turn 5, down the moraine sweep. Turn 5, one of the higher speed where you got to get on the brakes pretty quickly in order to make something happen. The short chute up underneath the Corvette Bridge to turn 6, and then they'll head down towards 7 and the hurry down section of the racetrack for the first time here this evening. Hurry downs will lead you over to turn 8 and then down to that sweeping right-hander that is the carousel in 9 and 10. You see Polasek take it really easy through 8 as they head towards the carousel. 8's a place, James, where if you carry too much speed, you can get caught out there very easily on approach to the carousel.
We've seen a lot of drivers overshoot turn 8 throughout the course of this evening. I feel pretty comfortable in saying we'll probably see it at least once tonight, maybe more. we'll just have to wait and see how this race pans out. But wouldn't be a shocker to see drivers overshoot their boundaries in 8 and then completely miss it, maybe run into people trying to get into 9 and 10. You hope that all gets avoided, but it's never a certainty so far as things pan out, as Polasek continues to lead over Malia, Lisner, and then Jeff Lewis and Chris Pies. The first real battle here, probably Mark Huth and Greg Carr 7th and 8th, and Matthew Kikis is there in 9th as well.
Headed back through 14, they'll complete lap number 1. It was a bit of a nervous moment behind the race leader as everybody headed through Canada Corner, but it's all settled out. They come up underneath the Caterpillar Bridge, lap 1 in the books, and it looks like a black flag penalty for Vaughn Glace, who gets an orange zone infraction on the pace lap. So we mentioned, James Pike, that contact that happened there down through Canada Corner and into Thunder Valley coming to the initial green. So that's going to bite Vaughn Glace early on, a tough break, and really going to put him behind the 8 ball for this race.
Glace down on pit road along with Carlos Lopez. Meanwhile, James Hughes actually did a decent job climbing up through the field. He's up to 15th after that wild start. Just not quite where he wanted to be after qualifying 7th on the grid. Not able to take advantage of the track position that he earned, which is a bit of a shame in and of itself. Meanwhile, Polasek's out in front by a second, and then Lisner's got a whole host of cars backed up behind him in what may be the first battle pack as this race separates out. But the eyes here we need to watch: John Malia, Jeff Lewis, 3rd and 4th. Lewis was all over the 690 coming out of turn 6, and as they work towards the carousel, he continues to close on.
I'm not surprised at that. Malia was really lacking a little bit of speed there on that first lap, and I think part of the reason we saw everybody packed up around the 690 was because he was holding Lisner and a couple of the other guys up. Jeff Lewis is back there. Chris Pies is back there. They head under the Hawk Performance Bridge down towards the kink, and we'll get through there, head to Kettle Bottoms before they get to Canada Corner. Polasek's still pulling away, but the battle is for 3rd. Jeff Lewis trying to close on the 690 of John Malia through Canada Corner.
Interesting note from Glace on what happened, and I quote, "Whoever I hit on pace, I'm so sorry. There was a power surge or something. My screen went black." So that's exactly what happened to Glace, and all that madness, and everything went sideways and topsy-turvy for the 13 and for James Hughes. So we have a better sense of what happened between the 13 and the 12, but no real matter now as Malia continues to fend off Lewis. And then beyond that, Peterson and Hughes was a good battle for 6th and 7th. Same for Greg Carr and Matthew Kikis, who sit in 8th and 9th. And you could also maybe say the same about Doug Metzel and Chris Walsh, but largely, Jacob Simon, feels like that we haven't quite found our battles yet, maybe outside of Malia and Lewis.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to be a battle for very long. I do think Malia's falling back in a hurry early on and going to be holding up the 927 of Jeff Lewis, that blue car, pretty quickly. Meanwhile, the powder blue entry, the 92 of Jason Lisner, was a 10th faster than Polasek last time, as we see Lewis try to take a peek for 3rd behind Lisner, but Lisner visibly up the Corvette bridge, faster than Michael Polasek right now. It's 6 car lengths as they head to turn 8.
It is 6 car lengths. It's maybe 7 or 8 here when you account for the speed of the hurry downs down to that very tricky turn 8, which leads you to the entrance of the carousel. Lisner just doesn't have an answer for Polasek, and we're only on the 3rd lap of this race. So if you had any question about how good Michael Polasek is, maybe we might need to start calling Mark Harston at Porsche Motorsport North America and get to take a look at what Polasek's been able to do, because he's been just lightning fast in his 45.
He has been through Kettle Bottoms, headed down towards Canada Corner, and this is the section of the track, James, where I actually think Lisner's a little bit better than Polasek right now. The 12, 13, 14 complex, the back end of the racetrack back towards the line, is where it seems Lisner has been able to pull in a little bit of time, or reel in Polasek, I should say. Not quite as much this time, though. Polasek got a good run through Mitchell Bend, and that's going to afford him some extra speed as they come up the hill to complete lap number 3. Again, 45 minutes is a lot of time for things to play out. We're barely over 6 minutes in, but all of a sudden, Malia has started to reload and close in. It's 2 car lengths down the front straightaway, headed for turn 1. Malia trying to get him under braking. Lisner, though, able to sail it through 1 and hang on.
So between Lisner, Malley, and Lewis, you got a battle. You got a pass that's going to happen somewhere in all this mess. We're just not necessarily certain where that's going to be. And also of note, while they've been battling, Chris Pies was just as quick as all of them right there. He's managed to hang on to the back of this shit. If they make any sort of missteps or mistakes, watch that 14 car come in and take advantage of things. And then you slide a little bit further back, and you've got a second really good battle pack. I think you could maybe throw Leaf into it, but it's really more Mark Hughes, Greg Carr, Matthew Kikis, all within about maybe 5 car lengths. As there goes Carr, who goes wide, coming out of 5, and nearly opened the door for Kikis, entering 6.
Nearly being the key word as everything settles back in. That's all happening 6.8 seconds behind the leader. Kikis trying to reload and make something happen, as meanwhile the battle for second continuing on between Malia and Lisner as they head through the carousel. That time, Lisner gets a better run through 9 and 10, the carousel complex, as they head under the Hawk Performance Bridge and down towards the Kink and into Kettle Bottoms. And now the battle back on for third as Malia falls into the clutches of Jeff Lewis. Jeff Lewis is there. He wants a spot on the podium. Lewis out of the Potomac region trying to make something happen.
Lewis trying to make something happen. Also can tell you that Kikis was able to get around Greg Carr in the carousel just a bit ago. So Kikis now jumps up to 8th, but big battle at the front here is indeed between Malia and Lewis, the 690 and the 927, as it's Metropolitan New York trying to fight Lewis out, and the Northeastern battle rages between these two and continues to circulate as they push on. And I guess, how do you play this? New York versus DC. This is what? Pizza versus cherry blossoms?
Something like that.
I don't know if DC has a dedicated food thing. That's my problem, of course. So somebody here in chat is about to roast me and tell me exactly what that is, but
probably.
It's not like Philly with the cheesesteak or Boston with the clam chowder or, something like that.
Correct. Meanwhile, Jason Lisner, by the way, was 0.3 faster than your race leader last time by, but so was John Malia. So while the lead gap shrinks a little bit, so does the gap between second and third. And it's going to be a dance throughout this race, James, isn't it? Between these front 3 or 4, Polasek, Lisner, Malia, and Lewis are really the 4 names we've seen at the front of the field in the top 5 or 6 positions every single week through this PCA Sim Racing Series 4, when we watch them dance down and through the midsection of this course, if you will, to turn 8 before they get to the carousel in 9 and 10. These 4 have been the show all Series 4 long.
They really have. They really have just thrown it up and said, you know what, we're going to go for it. And if anybody else wants to try and hang on our rear wings, you're certainly welcome to. But if that's all you can do is hang, we're not going to stop you. As Malia is still just hanging on over Jeff Lewis, and there's not really much that he's been able to do to separate himself. Meanwhile, Matthew Kikis has really distanced himself from Greg Carr. That might be the car to watch out of all the drivers in the top 10 if you're looking for someone to make a charge, because he started to reel in Mark Huth in 7th, so we may have a battle between the 15 and the 34 for a position in the not too distant future if Lewis can't pressure Malia into a mistake.
We may. I also want to give a call to the Mid-Ohio region and Ryan Heidenreich in 14th place, the biggest mover early on, up 5 positions. And Heidenreich has been one who has qualified well for the most part this year, but a very difficult qualifying effort for the 64 tonight, James. And Heidenreich very uncharacteristically at the back of this field among the 20 cars that started things. So he's picked his way quietly up through and actually just took one more spot to move up to 13th around James Huth. So Heidenreich now +6 from where he started. He's got a ways to go to get to Jordan Dyer in 12th, but been running some very, very respectable lap times early on.
Got some pressure from Huth, but not necessarily out of the question. And Dyer's in a good battle with Arthur Chan. As you mentioned it, Chris Walsh is also not too far ahead. So 10th, 11th, and 12th, everybody just sort of sitting in and hanging out and waiting for their big moment to make something happen, as Kikis really has started to climb onto the rear wing of Mark Huth and make that a battle for the 7th position. But still not quite as tight as Malia and Lewis. And how about Chris Pies? All of a sudden, he started to reel in Jeff Lewis. So I wonder if Lewis is conserving, is saving, maybe just not forcing the issue yet, perhaps?
Perhaps not. Obviously, he's got plenty of gap between himself and the next car behind him in Leif Peterson, who sits about 4 seconds back of the top 5 in 6th position. But Pies is one of those intellectual drivers, I feel like, who we've watched all season not necessarily show all his cards right at the start, but really come on strong later in the race. So he's lurking at the back end of the top 5. Lewis ahead of him, Malia ahead of him, Lisner ahead, and then 1 second in front of all of it, the 45 of Michael Polasek as we work the 12-minute mark. Coming through turn 14, back up the hill to the start-finish line. We will complete 6 laps by this time around, and it started to become equidistant among the top 3 competitors. It's about 0.8 of a second between first and second. It's 0.8 more from Lisner to Malia.
It's 0.8, it's 0.8, it's 0.6, it's 0.4, and then once you get to Leif Peterson, do you finally have a gap somewhere in there? It's about 4 seconds between Pies and Peterson's, the 2 Texans separating this field in 5th and 6th, and then you've got that group with Youth and Geekus and Carr and Walsh, and then Shannon Dyer and company. So everybody, it's one of those weird cases where everyone's just separated enough to where you're not really going to see too many immediate battles, but close enough to where anything could develop if things shake out the right way.
It's very, very true. And I think as things start to settle down, really, I feel like this is kind of the opportunity where as we wait for the battles to develop a little bit, and it may yet develop between Jeff Lewis and Chris Pies, who has started to pressure for 4th place just a little bit. But this Series 4 in the Pro class has been really a story of these front 4 or 5 drivers. Obviously, Northern New Jersey and Michael Polasek have dominated the headlines, but the storylines are kind of individualistic for each of the other drivers among the top 5, aren't they? James, with Jason Lisner, I feel like the story all season long is what might have been and how close he's been, because how many times have we talked about Lisner being in position or being right there within striking distance of being able to make something happen, and through one bad break or another, just not quite being able to pull it off. And here he sits one more time, second to Polasek. I know it's early. We're not even halfway through this race, but boy, if he runs second again, James, I can only imagine what's going to be going through Jason Lisner's head after this is all over.
And it's sort of been the same story with all the challengers. It's Charlie Yao in there once they were running up and way back in the way when they were running the 2-class races, and the Malias and even the Elliott Skiers, I think, jump into the same group too, where they just can't quite piece it together and make it all happen and make it work and somehow piece it the way you need to in order to make it happen. Meanwhile, I think Polasek, I keep thinking of some of the great NBA dynasties of the years. We've seen some of the advertisements for The Last Dance on ESPN that tells the story of Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and this very much feels like call it the 91-92 season, the one where Jordan finally got over the hump, and he had some stern tests from some great teams in his first few years in the league. The great Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers, notably, above all, those great bad boys Detroit Pistons with Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumars and company. And Jordan had all the talent, but he took his lumps and didn't always win in those first few years in playoff series. And that, to me, is exactly what I feel like Polasek had to go through last year in Series 1 and Series 2. Had the pace, had the speed, had the talent, but just got beat by a little bit more experience and a little bit more patience. And in this particular season, this is the one where all that patience has come to him, and he has learned, and now he has been able to mold that patience and that talent into a very potent, deadly combination, which has been largely untouchable. I think the only race he hasn't had the chance to win, he got swept up in an incident, and otherwise he's been just about 100% perfect in this series, and dangerously, dangerously quick is that 45.
I think he's looking for, if he wins this tonight, it would be, 6 of 8, Pike, if I'm right?
Believe that's right. Yeah, 6 of 8.
And that's the kind of dominance that you just don't expect to see in this pro class because of how tight the times are, how top echelon the talent is, and just how close these guys race week in and week out. You just don't believe you're going to see one guy do what Michael Polasek has done this year. As we continue talking about some of the stories among the top 5, you look at a guy like John Malia in the 690 who really is not where I expected him to be in points because he's run so well and run among the podium for the better part of this season out of Metropolitan New York region, but he set 11th in points coming into this, trying to leap into the top 10, maybe get up to maybe as high as 8th place if he can outpace Carlos Lopez, Chris Pies, Ryan Heidenreich, a couple ahead of him. 8th through 11th separated by 26 points coming into tonight. But for Malia, it's just been little mistakes. A mistake here, an off-course excursion there. Malia's had the pieces, just hasn't been able to quite put them all together this year.
And Road Atlanta in particular, I believe it was Malia and Polasek that got tangled up with the lap car in round 5. That's the one that jumps out to me because Malia genuinely had the speed, I think, to do something that week in particular. And it just seems like his series has just sort of ebbed from there rather than flowed. In a bit of a hard knock on him. I think you hit it right on the head that Malia certainly has had speed to be better than 11th in points and just hasn't had the luck. And in fairness, it was incidents like that convinced the steering committee that it was time to go to 4 races a night, at least for the duration of the remainder of Series 4. So in fairness, events like that have helped to space out these groups and really put the best talent on display in these classes. But for Malia, I think even more hard luck than Lisner. Lisner has had bad luck, but sometimes just quite hasn't had the pace. But Malia, I think, has had a little bit more pace, just a lot more bad luck by comparison.
Jeff Lewis in 4th in the 927. I think quiet consistency. James, would you agree that really is the descriptor for his season? 5th in points, tied for 4th in points coming into this with James Huth, and looks highly likely that he's going to move up to 4th in points and maybe even have a shot at Leif Peterson for 3rd in the championship before it's all over. But the Potomac region, he's never been the fastest car, I don't feel like, but he's always been among these top 4 or 5 by the finish of it, and just has kind of stacked pennies as we see some of the NASCAR teams talk about over the course of the year. Just piling up good finish after good finish, and it's put him in a great position. He's, it's not a championship year, but it's a year that proves that given the right circumstances and maybe a couple of breaks, I think that he can contend in the future.
Potentially. And I think to the same degree, you could say just about the exact same thing about Matthew Kikis. I don't know if Kikis has quite had the speed that Lewis has had, but top 10, Kikis has been there pretty much week in, week out, and has been in every race too, which counts for something in the final point standings. 2 models of consistency, and I look at them, and those are the 2 types of drivers that if you're running a sim endurance race, let them come in and run the dirty shifts and those deep late hour shifts. If you want drivers who are going to give you consistent pace and not tear up cars, drivers like Lewis and Kikis are the kinds of people you need to have on those teams in order to be successful. So I think I'd be curious to see what they get on with if they try and pull some of the endurance races and take part in those a little bit later in the year, because I really think they'd have the opportunity to do something.
And final driver in the top 5 here. I know we're telling some of the stories, but we really have an opportunity to tonight, James, because it's the last race of Series 4, because we've kind of spaced things out a little bit here under this first green run, closing in on the midway point of the race. But Chris Pye is another one who has not necessarily had the breaks, but the Lone Star region, when he's been on it, he's been very fast, running in the top 5. And for him, this is a run, I think, representative of what he's capable of when everything goes right.
When everything goes right, which it hasn't quite always, but more often than not, Shane kind of pretty consistent, solid speed. It wavers maybe a little bit more, but I think, and especially with a lot of the old guard of PCA sim racing, those who have been around since the beginning, which you can count Polasek and Lisner and Pies and Peterson and the Huth brothers in particular, Matthew Kikis, Alberto Fonseca in that bunch too. They've all really found some form of consistency one way or another. And even if it isn't necessarily reflected in the results, I think with those drivers, you watch them enough, you know where their baseline is, you know what they're going to give you and how things are going to shape up. As Polasek gave up a little bit of his lead there, locked it up going into 8th. So you nailed it on the head, Jacob. That corner in that particular spot on track, treacherous for everyone. But I think those who have had all the experience, you know you're going to get some form of pretty solid speed out of all of them.
Yes, you do. Battle for third is shaping up, headed to the kink as Jeff Lewis has run up on the back of John Malia in the race for third. They head down through Kettle Bottoms towards Canada Corner, turn number 12. Lewis was right on the bumper of the 690 of Malia, lost about a car length there right before they got to Canada Corner. Head down now through 13, Thunder Valley and Mitchell Bend before they head over to 14 and come back to the line. When they get to the line, it will be right at the halfway point of this race. Lewis had a look on Malia going into 14. That was a very tricky pass attempt that he tried to make. Meanwhile, your race leader, Michael Polasek, takes the line for lap number 11, and it is right, James, at the midway point of this 45-minute race.
And as Malia looked to the outside and Lewis bounced to the inside, we're going to try and bring you our final VRS Midway race break of Series 4, which as always is brought to you by Virtual Racing School. VRS is the official setup provider for PCA sim racing and is home to a wide variety of tools to help you become faster. Learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion Ray Alfala, 3-time iRacing World Champion Martin Krunke, inaugural iRacing Rallycross champion Mitchell DeYoung, and other top sim racers. Polasek, Lisner, Malia, your top 3 at the moment, then Jeff Lewis, then Chris Pies in 5th. 6th belongs to Lee Peterson, 7th at the moment to Mark Hughes. It's Greg Carr, Chris Walsh, and Arthur Chan making up the rest of the top 10.
Jordan Dyer runs 11th. Alberto Fonseca is 12th. James Huth in 13th. Matt Kikis has fallen back to 14th now with Ryan Heidenreich in the 15th spot. Doug Metzel runs 16th, the last car on the lead lap, appropriately in 17th is car number 17, Matty James. Von Glace, after the troubles on the pace lap and the early penalty, sits a lap down in 18th position. Carlos Lopez and Stephen Cuglieri completing the field, and I believe both of them either out of this race or at the very least many laps down as we pass the halfway point of tonight's final race of Series 4.
And that concludes tonight's VRS Midway Race Break. And for more information on Virtual Racing School, you can visit www.virtualracingschool.com. So now we breathe it out, let it all out, and see what happens on the other side in the second and final half of the final race of Series 4. As credit
Here we
to
go,
Malia.
leaders in.
Leaders in, Polasek comes in for service. So just as you needed a spark of change and something to stir the drink a bit, Polasek is the first one to come into pit road. So it's Lisner, Malia, Lewis, and Pies who are all going to have to respond, I would think, in short order, Jacob.
And I have to believe this is exactly according to plan at a track like Road America, and especially in the position that Michael Polasek is in. You do not want to be caught out on older tires and giving up time at a 4-mile racetrack like this. So he pulls it in, stops in the number 1 pit stall, picture perfect, and this going to be all according to plan, I think, for Michael Polasek, James. I have to believe he wanted to be the first one to pit, because at that point you basically control not only your own destiny, but I feel like more or less everybody else, because they're now forced to respond to what he's doing, and he is going to have nothing but clean track to use those fresh tires to the max.
Or fuel. In that case, he only stayed in the box for 14.7 seconds, so maybe some tires shuffled, but more often than not, you have a stop that short, that's fuel right there. You take tires, it's normally 30. So Polasek with a very solid stop on his own. Jason Lisner, John Malia, Jeff Lewis, your new lead group, and they, I think, almost certainly are going to have to come in, because, as you said, that's the advantage of being the leader, Jacob. If you end up at a spot where you can take over and you end up at a spot where you have control of the pit cycle, you really can do whatever you want. Most leaders tend to sort of run it out, and say, you guys can try and catch me if you can on old tires, but there's also some value to the opposite line of thinking where you jump in and short pit everybody else and control the entire cycle in that order too.
I think they were close enough to the back bumper of the 45 of Polasek that he needed to be the one to control this pit cycle, because otherwise there was the risk of more or less everybody running him down. And right on cue, James, Lisner, Malia, Lewis, Pies, all down the pit road, as does Leif Peterson, I believe. So we are seeing everybody not named Polasek right down the lane here, and it's going to be all about where the 45 cycles out in relation to everybody else.
And how these pit times look, maybe more importantly, that I think is going to be the biggest question as we wait to see what does Lisner do, what does Malia do, what does Lewis do as they all come into their boxes. A few more drivers in for service. Peterson, Carr, Chan, and Dyer. So everybody on the revs waiting and ready to go. We'll see who jumps out first. Answer that question is Jason Lisner with a 13.9 second stop. Malia was even quicker at a 13.3, and holy cow, oh, it was so close. I didn't even notice it there, but Polasek just managed to jump ahead of Malia, but Lisner
beat
jumped
him
them all. Lisner jumped them all, Jacob.
What? And that 13, what was it, 13.9, Pike?
To the 14.7.
That's the difference right there. 0.8 of a second difference in the box, and Jason Lisner leapfrogs Michael Polasek to take the lead. And I believe this is where it would be appropriate and prudent to say, let the mind games begin as they come up the Corvette Bridge.
The mind games? You mean the headlight flashes? Either one, I think, would apply here.
That too.
We know that Polasek's going to try and throw a few of those, but the wild thing here, pace has been really equal between these drivers all night long. Never mind the fact that it is the exact reverse of what happened last week at Silverstone, where it was Polasek who jumped out in front of Elliott Skier and made everything work from that point onwards. So now the hunted becomes the hunter, I suppose.
And you know what? If I'm Polasek, I don't mind being the hunter. He's done everything else there is to do in Series 4. Why not take a stab at it and try to run down his closest rival during the final laps of this race? So Lisner jumps out to the race lead. It's Polasek now in the second position, and behind him, John Malia has closed in third. Jeff Lewis is fourth, and Chris Pies is fifth. So the only change between first and second, as Lisner up the hill will lead it at the line, and I believe it's going to be about half a second between him and the 45 of Polasek.
Lap times are gonna be the key, especially once we get back to green flag racing proper and everybody starts cycling in. It was a 2:01.7 for Polasek, which isn't too shabby at race pace. It's about a second off his qualifying pace, but you know Polasek's got speed. The question is, what is that gap gonna look like? How is he going to manage it? What is going to come around on that front, and how will everything sort itself out as this race comes to a close?
Still got some time to work with, about 15 minutes left on the clock, about 5 car lengths. Oh, look how deep Polasek took it in before he finally got on the brakes as they head up underneath the Corvette Bridge. I'll tell you what, he's trying to take advantage of everything he can get right here, headed down towards turn number 8 and out to the carousel. Or, sorry, that was turn 7. Now they'll head down towards 8 and then into the carousel. So, boy, I'll tell you what, Polasek's trying to take advantage of every inch of this racetrack that he can get as they head towards the kink, and that seems to be where Lisner has struggled a little bit. Polasek's awfully good through turn 11, that high-speed kink.
Waiting and seeing how it shapes up. You can hear Lisner breathe the throttle ever so slightly on corner exit at the kink, and as they come down to Canada, it's just dead even on the gaps. It's 0.6 of a second pretty much through and through all the way around as they abuse the curves on the exit of Canada corner and then come up this slight uphill blind corner, the Bill Mitchell bend, before they make their way towards turn 14 in this final stretch down the front straight. Maybe the bigger question is what sort of draft can Polasek get?
And we know that is a factor down the front straightaway headed towards turn number 1. And we have to ask ourselves as this gets into the latter stages. We saw a brave move during the club race tonight to go on the outside of turn 1 and make a pass. Could Polasek be the brave one and try to make a pass like that on the outside into turn 1 should the opportunity be afforded to it?
So now the numbers everybody wants to see. Last lap times. Last time by, it was a 2:01.693 for Lisner. For Polasek, a 2:01.640. So 5/100ths of a second, which feels incredibly scant, but I have a feeling that number is going to fluctuate a little bit more in some way, shape, or form in the next 13 minutes and change, and maybe a little bit more here. There's a big dive from Polasek into 5.
And he's been attacking turn 5, that moraine sweep up to 6 and underneath the Corvette bridge just about every single lap. So 7 to hurry downs right here before they hit turn number 8. But the moraine sweep down to 5 is where Polasek has just absolutely been all over the gas all race long.
All over it, although I would contend that Lisner's been better in 6, 7, and 8. The hurry downs have been his section over the last few laps from what I've been able to see. Yes, Polasek's better in the kink and better in the braking zone in 5, but Lisner in the hurry downs and then on the exit of Canada Corner last time, and we'll see what it looks like this time. But those two spots, I think, may belong more to the 92 than the 45.
I can't necessarily disagree with that as they head down into Canada Corner, turn 12, and I don't know if Lisner hesitated or Polasek just dove it in a little bit deeper, but a little bit dicey through there as they head through Thunder Valley and Mitchell Bend before they get back to turn number 14, and when they get back to the line, it will be 12 minutes to go here at Road America for the Pro Class. Battle for third heating up again between John Malia and Jeff Lewis. How many times have we said that in this race already? Malia will not give up that final spot on the podium, but again, Polasek about a half a tenth quicker than Jason Lisner. That gap is closing in 1.
2:01.635 to a 2:01.586. The only numbers you really need right here as we see Lisner dance around just a little bit. But biggest thing maybe for Lisner, and maybe the most important thing I've noticed everywhere on this racetrack, earlier apex out of turn 14, he is maximizing every last ounce of momentum he can get going down the front straightaway. And given how long that front stretch here is Road America, that exit of 14 is far more important than maybe just about anywhere else on this racetrack. If there is one turn you need to get right, 14 is hands down that turn.
Yes, it is, as they work turn number 7 here and head up the hurry downs to turn 8. And you mentioned hurry down seems to be where Lisner has been at his best. He again extends the gap by a car length as they head towards the carousel, turns 9 and 10. Working lap number 17. It'll be 10 minutes to go in this 45-minute race when they get back to the line. Underneath the Hawk Performance Bridge now, headed to the kink. Michael Polasek. And really what I'm noticing is as Polasek tries to close in a little bit, battle for third is on. John Malia and Jeff Lewis. Lewis to driver's right as they head down through Thunder Valley, or through the Kettle Bottoms into Canada Corner. Getting a little ahead of myself, but what a move by Lewis. He finally had enough, and Jeff Lewis moves into the podium position.
That's a brilliant way to work somebody over and really try and stack it all up and find a way around your opponent and your competition after laps and laps and laps and laps of pressing the issue. Finally, Jeff Lewis takes over third. And interestingly, the last time by, the top 4 cars were in order fastest from 4th to 1st. So Lewis, before he got around Malia, was faster than Malia, who was faster than Polasek, who was faster than Lisner. Last time by, it was a 2:01.482 to a 2:01.678. So Lisner got 2/10 back, actually extended the gap. And now here comes Jeff Lewis in the 9:27, who all of a sudden may have found a second win, and he may be the one to leapfrog Michael Polasek at the end of this.
Yeah, Michael Polasek is not going to be able to focus forward because he's about to have to play defense. Jeff Lewis is there in that blue 927 up the inside at turn 5, and I think Polasek may have just let him go. And Polasek, he's not only going to lose second, he may lose third to Malia right here. Big move by Malia, who gets by. So the championship leader falling back here in a hurry. You wonder, has he burned everything up? Did he not take enough fuel? Is he worried about having to save James Pike?
Option D, is he just going to let all these drivers fight it out ahead of him and make a late charge? There's also that option, too, which we could consider. But maybe the more important thing to note, Jeff Lewis was 0.3 faster while passing John Malia that last lap. Never mind here. But Lewis, all of a sudden, is the fastest man on this racetrack. It is the one who may be best positioned to try and jump around Jason Lisner.
I believe that as they head through Canada Corner, turn number 12, they'll head for Thunder Valley and Mitchell Bend here as they move through 13 and get ready to head back towards the final corner past the Kohler sign and into turn number 14 before they come back up the hill to the start-finish line. It'll be 8 minutes to go. When they get to the line, Lisner v. Lewis is suddenly the battle. It is 8 car lengths between first and second, and the gap is shrinking. Jeff Lewis, 0.4 faster than race leader Jason Lisner, and that was while he was making a pass of Michael Polasek, who has now fallen to 2.5 seconds back.
Da-dum, 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 da-dum. If you've watched the movies, you'll know exactly what the reference is, but boy, you know, there's so much blue on Jeff Lewis's car. Doesn't it make sense that that would be appropriate?
Oh, totally. I love the Jaws references. Lewis, boy, he's now attacking turn 5 just like Polasek was just a couple of moments ago as the battle for the lead continues, and James Pike, Jason Lisner may have just fallen out of the sim here.
Waiting to see and to confirm, but that may well be the case. Nothing from race control yet on that, but all of a sudden, Lisner has gone ghost in live timing and scoring. So maybe, just maybe, a tremendous heartbreak on hand for Lisner. That's the way this all ends for him. It is a cruel, cruel end to Series 4. Nothing official yet, but Lisner continues to fall, and Lewis now all of a sudden is the fastest man on track and is fast by a significant amount too. And what a moment this would be at the end of the series for Jeff Lewis, who has the potential to get it done for the Potomac region and make it a big night. They've already got some fans over the region next door. The Chesapeake region brought home the sportsman title via Igor Soiker. Could back it up with a win in the season finale for the Pro Class from the Potomac region, which is where Lewis calls home. So Washington, D.C. here versus New York versus Northern New Jersey. But I don't think Michael Polasek's going to push it too much. Maybe a little bit more, though. But he was 4/10 slower than Lewis that last time by. This may just be a victory lap here if Polasek wants it to be.
And we did just get the receive throughput notification on Jason Lisner. What a heartbreak for driver 92. James Pike, did we not mention 15 or 20 minutes ago that the story of Jason Lisner's season was oh how close? And I feel like tonight again, oh how close. He should be the one leading this race. He should probably be the one winning this race. And it's just not to be. I am at a loss for words for the bad luck, the season, the close calls that Jason Lisner has had. It's really, you know, what can you say?
Just one of those where even I'm sitting here a little bit speechless, and you feel like all those teams in the paddock and the crews that see something like that happen and they just stare off at the monitors in disbelief. That's the thought, I think, with Lisner, who had been in such good shape the whole way through and at least was going to have a chance to fight off Jeff Lewis for the race win. But now it's all just gone, and he will finish no better than 18th, presuming Vaughn Glaze continues to circle around Road America and complete the laps that he is. And that is just not the sort of finish that Lisner deserves after the performance he's put on this evening.
Oh, it's not the finish he deserves for the performance he's put on all year. And I think the biggest implication here is with him falling all the way back potentially to 18th, James. That's going to open the door, shouldn't it, for Leif Peterson to potentially steal second in the standings. Leif right now going to be elevated into the top 5 inside of 4 minutes to go, and 13 positions difference. I don't have the math in front of me to know exactly how the difference is between, from position to position, but I would have to believe it's going to make it awfully dicey for that 2 spot.
Could make it dicey for the 2 spot. Could just be one of those things where it rides its way out here and everybody just sort of hangs tight because those front 4 have spaced themselves out. And Jeff Lewis is almost certainly going to get the white flag, probably, I think, on the next lap, given where he is now on course, just now entering turn 5. So maybe a lap and change for Lewis to get this done.
If they hold at the current pace, and he's working under the Corvette bridge to 5 right now, they will get the white flag next time by. So very quick end to this race inside of 2 laps to go. And as you mentioned, what a finish to the season this may be about to be for Jeff Lewis as they head through the carousel, a driver who we've certainly watched and, again, has been solid all year long, but not always had the luck. Well, he's certainly going to leapfrog James Huth tonight, take over 4th in points. He may get to Leif Peterson for 3rd in points. I don't know that, I say get to Leif Peterson. Actually, it may end up being getting to Jason Lisner as Lisner falls behind both Peterson and Lewis before all this is over. But I'd have to say almost for certain, Jeff Lewis holds on to win this race as it sits. He would end up at least catapulting himself to 3rd in points.
Not too shabby a run for the 927, all things considered, as we now work our way towards the last lap here. And white flag is out for Jeff Lewis. White flag for Series 4 of PCA Sim Racing. And one more lap for Michael Polashek. And how big a moment this is going to be for the 20-year-old out of the northern New Jersey region of the PCA. We put the spotlight on Lewis the last few minutes, but when it is all said and done, this is his series, his moment to shine.
It is. At just 20 years young, Michael Polashek has come out in Series 4 and absolutely stunned the masses. He has been and built himself into a superstar in PCA Sim Racing in absolute short order all season long. For the northern New Jersey region, this is going to be a shining moment as he crosses under turn 6 and heads to 7 in the hurry downs for the final time. Polashek, the young gun, the driver that perhaps we didn't expect to be that man in charge. He is going to be the man in charge tonight as the leader heads for the carousel the final time. Jeff Lewis trying to cap everything off with a victory and end it strong for the Potomac region. He's out of turn 10 and headed to the kink.
Lewis in good shape as well as Polashek continues his charge. He was actually 4/10 faster than John Elliott that last time by. One more time through Canada corner for Jeff Lewis.
Jeff Lewis heads through through Kettle Bottoms and into Canada corner for the final time. The 927, the electric blue machine, on his way to victory. But we talked about Michael Polashek. It will not be 6 for 8, but it will be a championship drive in the making. Top 3 head through 14 for the final time. They're up the hill headed for home.
It is Jeff Lewis who will come across the line and win the final race of the Pro Class for PCA Sim Racing in Series 4. But it is ascension complete for Michael Polashek, who wins the Series 4 PCA Pro Class Championship. The title is his, and in turn, he becomes the youngest ever champion in PCA sim racing history. How about that for the Lone Wolf Motorsports driver? How about this for the Northern New Jersey region? Hands down, one of the biggest moments, if not maybe the outright biggest moment in his sim racing career. But no matter how you slice it, the 45 of Michael Polasek at 20 years old is a PCA sim racing champion.
Absolutely right. What a job Michael Polasek has done this night, this season. I tip my cap, James Pike, and I think we all have to, because this young man has, I used the word superstar there on that final lap, and I don't think that's an understatement. Michael Polasek has done what I don't know that any of us would truly have given him credit to be able to do at the start of Series 4, winning 5 of 8 races, dominating the championship standings all season long, an absolute well-deserved victory lap for the points for Jeff Lewis. It's a victory to close the year, a deserved victory because he had, pretty much done everything but win this season. But the 45 of Michael Polasek is what this night is all about. He is your champion at Road America.
And to think what he could do, I don't think we expected this at the beginning of this series, but it was very apparent from about the second or third race on that Polasek was going to be a force. We weren't necessarily certain that the victory at Mid-Ohio was an aberration or a harbinger. We found out very quickly that it fell into the latter category, and this is a very easy case for Michael Polasek to make things happen, to get it done, and to become a PCA sim racing champion. I know how much this is going to mean to him. This is a driver who at the 24 Hours of Daytona just constantly camped over, I think it was Michelin's rig, that had this very 911 RSR at the 2008 scan of Daytona, and he just went back and back and back to make sure he had top time on the board night in, night out. So no surprise then that Michael Polasek, with that kind of dedication, sees it all translate into a class championship in PCA sim racing as we take a look at the full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished. Jeff Lewis comes away with the victory tonight over John Malia. Michael Polasek finishes in the with the top 5. Mark Hugh comes home with the 6th place finish. 7th went to Greg Carr. James Huth finished in the 8th spot. 9th went to Matthew Kikison. 10th to the 20 car Jordan Dyer.
11th tonight goes to Chris Walsh. 12th to Arthur Chan. 13th is Doug Metzel. 14th, Ryan Heidenreich. 15th is Alberto Fonseca. Matty James, 16th. 17th is Vaughn Glace. Heartbreak for Jason Lisner, who comes up 18th. 19th to Carlos Lopez. And Stephen Cuglieri completes the 20-car field as we head trackside to Victory Lane. James Pike, where you're standing by with tonight's race winner, perhaps in a bit of a surprise, the 927 of Jeff Lewis.
Well, I'm standing by. I thought you were standing by. You have way more fun with this.
Oh, am I going to have fun with this? Well, you see, this is where you have to type faster, Pike, if you want me to know what I'm doing here. But Jeff Lewis, all right. Fair enough. I guess I'm taking this, Jeff Lewis. Where did that drive come from? We knew you had been fast all season long, but what a performance tonight.
Thanks. Yeah, I was saving behind everybody there for, I guess, all the way up until the pits. And I figured I would overfuel a little bit so I can push to the end rather than fight a fuel number like a lot of people I assume were. And this is also my favorite track in the country, possibly the world, so I knew I may have a chance here if I had a chance anywhere.
You were the fastest car on track through the middle portion of the race, and then really turned on the jets there in the final 15 or 20 minutes. Were you saving the first third or so, or was that just a matter of once the pit stop happened and everything shook out, knowing when it was time to start attacking?
I think it was a mixture of both. I was saving big time there because I figured it was so early in the race, there was no reason to fight anybody. and we all had considerable pace. And I knew the left front tire at this track really takes a beating around the corners. So I figured I would just stay behind everybody, save, and then once Malia made the mistake in the kink, I figured, all right, it's time to go. And that's when I pushed from then.
I know, obviously, it's a big night. The win should I don't have the official math in front of me, but the win, the way we've got it figured, should catapult you at the very least to a top 3 finish in points, Jeff. Is this the kind of statement at the end of Series 4 to give you some momentum going into the fall when we get back at this, and maybe take a stab at going after the points then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the beginning of the season, this is my first season with PCA, so I figured I would just take it easy, and I started from the back for 2 of the races, which really puts me at a big disadvantage points-wise. And then after I realized, all right, this is fun, everyone's good, clean racers, I figured, all right, let me start qualifying. And, by then I was way out of a shot, but either way, it was still an absolute blast.
Well, certainly seeing the electric blue in prime position tonight was very fun for us to watch. I know it was fun for you behind the wheel. I also know it takes a lot of good people and supporters that help make it possible. Who do you need to give a shout out to from the Potomac region, Jeff, and who makes it possible for this 927 operation?
First and foremost, I want to thank my main sponsor, Track Monkey Apparel, for everything they do for me, standing by. I want to thank my team, Ascari Autosport, and my co-owner of that team, Manny, for spotting me for that race. Really helped me hit all the numbers I needed to. And, I didn't say it last time, but I really want to thank you guys for putting this on for us, because without you guys, it wouldn't be shown everywhere, and it wouldn't be as much fun as it is.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, Jeff. Congratulations. A win to close the year here tonight at Road America. We'll see you in the fall.
Thank you, gents. Take it easy.
That's Jeff Lewis in the 927 who gets the job done here tonight in the finale for Series 4 of PCA Sim Racing. And meanwhile, James Pike, now I believe the both of us will take a few moments to catch up with the driver who dominated the headlines, dominated the series. We're standing by with the champion, Mike Polasek.
It is indeed Michael Polasek of the Northern New Jersey region, and now we can call him a PCA Sim Racing champion. He is the man who wins the top division of PCA Sim Racing in Series 4. And Michael, I remember when we talked to you after the Mid-Ohio race, and you had picked up your first win in PCA Sim Racing, and it felt like you had a mountain to climb to get to that point, and you could tell it meant a lot to you. I can only imagine what this means to you. Do you have any ability to put it into words at this point, how significant, how special this championship is?
Oh, man. Ever since Series 1, I've always wanted to do this. This has been a really, really big dream of mine. And to finally have it come to fruition at Road America, there's just no greater feeling in the world. Like this series was worth all the countless nights of sleep lost, all the countless hours practicing, figuring out my mistakes, building race strategies, calculating fuel, making sure that I was able to survive all these races, making sure that my tires were in great shape come the end of the race. Just all of that was just so hard on me. And like by the midpoint of the season, I really had doubts if I was going to be able to carry it through after the crash at Road Atlanta, and my championship lead severely diminished. But this just means so much to me, and I don't even think it's hit me yet, but I'm just ecstatic right now, and I don't even think there's a word to describe it accurately.
The theme that we've talked about on our ends is it's a bit of a coming of age story, I think. From everything that we've seen, you know as well as we do, and you said it as much as we have, that Series 1 and Series 2 were filled with cases where the pace was there, but there were just mistakes from lack of patience, lack of experience. And as this series has just traveled along, it seems like you've come into your own as a driver. Can you speak to what that experience has been like on your end, and how you've handled that process and grown throughout Series 4?
Oh man, I don't know where to start from that. But ever since the start of Series 4, I was as nervous as ever. I was never really able to use the pace from in my practice sessions, and that carried through from Series 1 to Series 4 just because I had this thought in my mind that's like, you have one chance. If you mess this up, you're going to wreck the car. And eventually, after, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 races, just something in me changed. Something in me just flipped a switch, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go all out for the remaining 3 races, and I'm going to pretty much do what I do in practice and do what I do best. And just to make yourself believe that, and I said this before, just believe that you can drive the car on the limit as fast as you can in practice in the race. That takes a lot of experience, a lot of getting used to, and a lot of learning it the hard way. And eventually, come Road America, I was really, really anxious coming to the start of this race because this is a draft track, it's a pack racing track, and one mistake from anyone could mean game over for me, Jason Lisner, or anybody else fighting at the front. And I got to give it to all the pro drivers for keeping it clean out front, and that was a really good race.
Mike, one about the race and then one about the championship. We saw you obviously jump out to the lead early, but after Lisner leapfrogged you there on the pit stops, was it a case of dirty air causing the car or causing your car to fall off just a little bit, or was that a case of you utilizing some of that patience that you found and knowing that you didn't necessarily have to go out and win this race? You just had to keep the guys that you were fighting around basically within your gun sight, so to speak.
Well, really, it's kind of a factor of things. First of all, when I was trying to keep ahead of Jason Lisner, I was using up my tires a lot. So I was really going for it and not really saving my tires. And also, fuel situation was quite a big thing as well. In the draft, you can save a lot of fuel just because the car in front's doing a lot of the dirty work for you and pushing all of that static air out of the way. And also, you could save that much fuel and then go to lap 13 or so. And everyone else was pretty much in a draft train. And unfortunately, I was pretty much left with a lose-lose situation of either pit on lap 12 and lose a huge amount of time because the car is going to be on heavy fuel and the car is significantly slower on heavy fuel, or risk it and potentially run out of fuel in the pit lane and have to tow for like maybe 15-20 seconds, which will lose me the championship. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to pit now, get it out of the way. If I don't come out with the lead, whatever. And from there, I just had to survive, and that's pretty much what I did.
You survive, you get the championship. We've watched you grow so much throughout this season. How big a shot in the arm is this? Is this, do you feel like, could it be the first of many now going into the fall and basically making you a favorite here when we get back at it for Series 5?
Honestly, I haven't even thought of next season. I'm just going to live this one down. And this has just been a really, really great experience. It's been very, very difficult, and it's almost broken me a few times, but at the end of the day, it was all worth it.
I like the fact that Jacob asked about that a little bit, because you now become the youngest champion that PCA Sim Racing has ever had too at 20 years old. So clearly we're going to see a lot more of this down the line, I guess. But we can start talking a little bit about Series 5 and the Cayman in particular. The first time we're going to see the Cayman in PCA Sim Racing. What should the fans expect from the champion himself about what we might see when we get to Cayman Racing in the fall?
Well, the Cayman, it's a really fun to drive car. It's got no aero, so going through the high-speed corners, especially the kink at Road America, is scary at best. And I think Suzuka's on the Series 5 calendar, so all the drivers there are going to have quite a fun time trying not to understeer or oversteer at 130R. The car is very trail brake heavy, so you got to put a lot of braking force into it just to make the car turn. And you can really either set the car up to be either terminally understeery or terminally oversteery. There's no real middle ground. Also, unlike the RSRs, tire wear is not a thing at all. The tires can pretty much go on for lap after lap after lap. After they warm up, they take maybe about, 5 to 10 minutes to warm up, which is quite a long time. But after they get up to temperature, the car pretty much sticks every single lap. And they are quite a bit of fun, so I'd expect to see quite a lot of close racing and maybe a bit of rubbing.
and a little bit of bumping, a little bit of stock car style action, which I think a lot of people here at this point know that the two of us can get behind up here in the booth. Guess the last big question for you, Michael, how do you go celebrate this one? How do you drink this one in?
I don't know. That's something I'm gonna have to figure out myself. But I got a lot of people to call, a lot of people supporting me out there, and a lot of people to congratulate me. And I'm so happy that this was the season that finally it all came together.
Pike, of course, you use the Drink It In acronym, and he's not even 21 yet, so he can't celebrate with alcohol. Come on.
You can get some Martinelli's, get some sparkling apple cider. It's pretty tasty. No, certainly. But in all seriousness, I think it might be a good thing that we don't necessarily have a camera on you, Michael, because I know right before we brought you in here, I thought I heard a few sniffles. So clearly, this is something that means a tremendous amount to you, more so than maybe just about anybody else in the whole of PCA sim racing. And to that end, I know there are tremendous amounts of people that deserve thank yous and a whole gigantic operation behind the 45 team. So the floor is all yours to send every sort of thank you, shout out, love note, whatever you need to say to everyone who helped make this championship possible for you.
Oh boy, that's quite a lot of people, and hopefully I can get to them all. But first and foremost, thank you to Lone Wolf Motorsports for every single ounce of support you guys give me. I really enjoy running the team, and you guys have been with me through thick and thin. Thank you guys so much for your support. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Grand Prix New York and GT Hub. Both of them have been super supportive of what I do, especially Grand Prix New York with their indoor karting facility, and they've helped me so much with their league programs to help me become a better driver and a better racer. I'd also like to thank my family, especially my dad, who always spots me every single race, tells me what I'm doing wrong, and he's so helpful. And I'd also like to thank all my aunts, uncles, and everyone else who's watching. They've been super supportive, and I'm absolutely happy. I'm so happy that they're there supporting me through every single race that I do. And I'd also like to thank Splash and Go again for their paint that they put on, well, pretty much all our cars now. It's going to be on the Cayman, Yarisar, and a few more cars. I'd like to thank them for creating this beautiful paint job that's been seen through all 8 races. I'd like to thank you guys for being an absolutely amazing broadcast team, and you guys are absolutely incredible. Every single race, every single broadcast you put on is top quality. I'd also like to thank the PCA for putting on this series and just being so supportive of everyone in the series. I'd also like to thank the Northern New Jersey region as well. I'm so happy that I was finally able to bring glory to the Northern New Jersey region, and I'm so happy that this all finally came together, and I don't know what to say. It's just so great to finally feel this feeling of triumph, almost, to attack pretty much the hardest thing you've done in sim racing up to this point and finally have it all go right.
And now you finally do get a chance to breathe and to take it all in and maybe relax at some point, though I figure we can't keep you away from the track for too long. But Michael, on behalf of the Porsche Club of America and all of us at Podium Esports, congratulations on becoming the Series 4 PCA Pro Class champion. Thank you as always for your time, and we look forward to seeing you maybe at the California Virtual Festival Speed Series 5, who knows, but we know it's not going to be too long before we see you on track once again.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Michael Polasek, champion of PCA Sim Racing for Series 4 in the Pro Class. Jacob Seelman, and I don't think I need to add much to it. You could hear what this meant to him, how much this meant to him, and that, I think, will always speak for itself 10 times out of 10.
Absolutely. I know it, an emotional night, a very special night, and I can promise anybody who just listened to our champion that this will be a night that Mike Polasek will never forget. And I think this really, James, I'll go ahead and give my final thought here. I think this is a night to me that kind of puts PCA sim racing, particularly in the pro class, it kind of opens it up to a new era as we take off for the summer before we return in the fall for Series 5. I think now we have seen that it's not just about veteran experience, that a young gun like a Polasek can get the job done. And I think that's going to be perhaps our new storyline going into the fall, youth versus experience, and I so much look forward to that. Certainly appreciate Doug Atkinson, everybody at PCA Sim Racing. I know I jumped in a bit mid-season, and appreciate them for welcoming me to this booth with open arms for the races that I was able to join you up here on the call for. It's been a pleasure watching the stories play out, and hopefully we'll have plenty more to be able to play out and enjoy when we get back in the fall for Series 5. I very much look forward to that with the Cayman, and like Polasek said, I think it's going to put on a tremendous show.
Boy, doesn't this feel so much like Jeff Gordon in 1995 to you, doesn't it?
I'll buy it. Absolutely.
Just a little bit, but then that's what you get when you have champions that young and that talented, and I think who have visibly grown that much. I think those of us sitting in the booth and have been around Michael Polasek since the start of PCA racing have seen the growing pains and have seen all of the work that has gone into this title run. So it goes, I think, beyond just saying that it's well deserved. That it's something that he really has had to work at. So I have no fear that he will undervalue what this means or sell it short. Michael Polasek has wanted every bit of this. He now has earned every bit of this and is PCA Sim Racing Series 4 champion in their top class.
Indeed. James,
there are plenty of events. I would say we got plenty of events coming up, though, not before we let go of all this, because there's so much going on this weekend too.
Right. Actually, I was going to let you get to the events. I was actually just doing some very quick math in my head and figured we could go ahead and throw this on the table. We know Polasek is the champion, but believe it or not, with the way the final points table breaks down, Jason Lisner, with only 20 cars in the field, barely, and I mean barely, hung on to second place in the standings over Leif Peterson, but it ends up being Jeff Lewis with the win that is able to jump up to fourth in points, just misses out on overtaking Peterson for third in points. But I think the big thing there was Lisner being able to hang on. I know it wasn't the end of the season that he wanted, but at least being able to hang on to that runner-up spot in points, I think, should be a source of optimism for him going into Series 5 as well.
So a good night for Lisner, but again, the story at the end of the night, Michael Polasek, at long last, a PCA Sim Racing champion, and that is where we close the book on Series 4 from Road America. Though, there's plenty of action coming up this weekend in the world of iRacing that we will let you all know about before we sign off. It starts tomorrow afternoon with the IndyCar iRacing Challenge from Circuit of the Americas. Arguably some of the best broadcasts from iRacing across this period have been for the IndyCar races, with all the close battles they've had throughout their events on Saturday afternoons. And they go to COTA at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the NBC Sports Network and the NBC Sports app, and also NBCSports.com/live. Then, two races to tell you about on Saturday night. You've got the Rowdy Energy Super Select Series from Speed 51 on speed51.com and the Speed 51 Facebook page. Round 6 from Five Flags Speedway coming your way 7:30 p.m. on Saturday night. And then the NASCAR Saturday Night Thunder from Talladega Superspeedway. Stars of the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series come at you at 9 p.m. Eastern on enascar.com/live. Sunday, it's the Geico 70 from Talladega Superspeedway, the next installment of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series as they go restrictor plate racing for the first time. That'll be a 1 p.m. Eastern start on Fox, Fox Sports 1, and the Fox Sports app, and the foxsports.com website as well. And then Sunday night, our, fun epilogue to the spring season of PCA Sim Racing, the California Virtual Festival of Speed, and that will be Sunday nights here. And we'll have more information over the next few days as you all get ready to tune in. We'll watch the GT4s, GT3s, and GTLMs take to the road course at Auto Club Speedway in Southern California, as we have a fun sort of closing ceremony almost to the spring action of PCA Sim Racing. We are done with Series 4. Michael Polishek is your champion of the Pro Class. And a big congratulations as well to all the class champions, to Kenny Brown, Igor Soiker, and Brady McMacken, all of whom come away with class championships this evening and are all the big winners in tonight's set of PCA Sim Racing and this final race of Series 4. There are so many people that we need to thank for making it possible. First and foremost, everybody at PCA Sim Racing, Jim Atkinson, Doug Atkinson, and Jim Hemming, as it's late enough to where I'm getting my names mixed up, and the steering committee, and all the members of PCA Sim Racing. This is very much about the people, first and foremost, as it is with everything PCA Sim Racing. And this is just yet another activity where their quality and class, and I think in this case their sportsmanship, shines through. So a tremendous thank you to all the PCA members who have tuned in, and all the PCA Sim Racing drivers and members who have chipped in and either watched or participated in Series 4. This would not have been possible without you all and without your leadership. And from our end, for Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, all the work they've done behind the scenes to either produce or help these productions get along their way, especially in such trying times and such difficult circumstances. They really have stepped up and done a good bit of work for all of us and helped to make all these broadcasts go around the way they need to. And especially tonight, to Ryan Bauer, who has been rock solid in coming in as quick as he did and jumped right in and never missed a beat with any of these broadcasts. A huge amount of credit to him. And to Ray Richard, who came in this evening to jump in and help us out. To Taylor Burris, who was part of the broadcast earlier on in the season. And, of course, to Jacob Steelman, the right-hand partner in crime here, who I think it just seems like all these broadcasts we do start running together. But few people I know I'd want to be alongside the booth with, and few people I would think outside of you to jump in and get in a booth and call a race with. So hats off to all of you and to our audience. I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching Series 4 of PCA Sim Racing. We invite you to tune in on Sunday night to the virtual California Festival of Speed, and we look forward to seeing you back here for Series 5 with the GT4 Cayman. More fun to be had in PCA Sim Racing. But for now, from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, good night.